think so?
Yeah.
Late 30s?
Okay,
I'd
I'd like to call the meeting to order. Thank you everyone for your patience as we just finished executive session. Let's start please by standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, would the clerk please call the roll?
Counselor Brennan?
Here.
Counselor Kame?
Present.
Counselor Petropoulos?
Here.
Counselor Gilat?
Here.
Counselor Lavin?
Here.
Counselor Gameau?
Here.
Counselor Grimaldi?
Here.
Counselor Whitfield? Mayor Cicery?
Here. All right, for this evening, we're going to start with council reports. Just as a reminder, 3 minutes, and it's appreciated to get an update from your liaison role as well as your wards or citywide if applicable. So let's start, please, with Councilor Petropoulos.
Right then, I had it up here. So, let's see, we had the LDC meeting today. I gotta find, I lost my spot. Give me a minute. Yeah, here we are. Okay, so the LDC met today. They went over quite a bit. We had a presentation from the school district. That would be Bo Wright, superintendent, and a couple of his staff. Basically, if you want to vote on their proposed budget, that will be held on the 19th of May from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the North Street School Gym. They have a revolving loan committee being formed with help from the county to manage the LDC's funds. The LDC got 2 to 3 members to be on that committee. The Hildreth Hill Neighborhood Association requested assistance for Blocks in Bloom and the Castle Creek Festival. The LDC is going to help them out. Then this goes for other neighborhoods that may want to have events. Cook Properties, we got an update on that. Seneca Sounds, a new music festival, is being formed. The Drumstock apparently won't happen this year, so 2 of the LDC's members, Ella Skinner and Brandon Phillips, are looking to create a festival that will happen on September 12th at the Cracker Factory. And finally, we want to welcome Brandon Phillips, the owner of the Cracker Factory, to the LDC. And last but not least, I designed a neighborhood sign for downtown. We had some downtown people here. I'm going to submit that to the LDC chair and to Amy Hendricks. Ward report real quick. We're on top, as much so as we can be, of the railroad crossing problems downtown. I got Assemblyman Gallahan to get the state DOT to poke Norfolk Southern. As soon as the asphalt factory is open, they say it's going to be 2 to 4 weeks. We'll find out. We had the ribbon cutting for Namaste Nutrition on 510 Exchange. I had a meeting with the Epic Zone Unity Center that we're ironing out some things. They're up and running. I did attend the Wards 1 and 2 Town Hall this past weekend. That was Councilor Lavin and Councilor Gummo with special guest Mayor Cicery. And the Captain's Cafe is closed. A new restaurant will be opening. And we know what that's going to be, some of us, but it's going to be a surprise. Last but not least, I want to give a shout out to Andrea McKitty, who has taken it upon herself to pretty up the butterfly garden. Okay, which I think is in Ward 6, actually. But still, it's a downtown thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Kame?
Ward 6 thanks you very much. April 8th, I had the pleasure of addressing the 5th grade at North Street School. Mrs. Guida invited me to discuss government with the 5th graders. And I want to congratulate the teachers for their efforts in helping the students to understand our form and system of government. It was very impressive. I had mock examples of monarchies, democracies, and republics. The rule of eating pizza and/or worms was voted on, and they learned that while a monarchy wasn't very good for anyone, a republic protected the minority from being forced to eat the worms. So I thank the students for their great questions, and I was amazed at the interest, the fervency, and zeal on the topic. Our students over at North Street School are really great people, and if they stay in Geneva, we're going to be real lucky. During the month, I attended numerous meetings with members of the community, the YMCA, and counselors on recreation, and attended meetings on the comprehensive plan. On April 27th, I met with the Recreation Advisory Board for their Reformation meeting. We got some real good residents on the board, and I look forward to seeing their ideas come to fruition. The group's community-minded and forward-looking, and I suggest if anyone has any suggestions, please reach out to the committee, and they're more than welcoming to work towards any new ideas and provide recommendations to the council for community activities. And I also had the honor that last month of attending the Geneva Police Department Awards ceremony, and I congratulate all our officers on their distinguished service. And we got some great guys over there too. Unfortunately, we did lose a home in the 6th Ward due to a fire on Eagle Street, and I thank the Geneva Fire Department for that and everything, with everything that's been going on lately. You guys have been there, and thank you very much. No one was hurt during the fire, and it didn't spread. I believe that is still under investigation. Dunkin' Donuts. If anybody's been down on 14 or North Street, you can see the Dunkin' Donut building is up, and today they've been putting the facade on it. And the target for mid-July for opening looks like it will be hit. Also in the 6th Ward, the pavilion at the Lakefront should be put up by mid-May, and according to Geneva Community Projects, who I believe is responsible for that endeavor. I'd like to thank code enforcement for the quick action time. Since the snow's melted, there's been many complaints coming in, and they've been right on top of them. And I've been working with council members on winter parking. We've been identifying locations with special needs and working to create a winter parking regulation that provides safe, clear roads while addressing those spots that have unordinary circumstances. I look forward to having a passable ordinance before this quarter is over. And the Housing and Neighborhood Development Ad Hoc Committee will have its inaugural meeting on Tuesday, May 26th at 6 p.m. here in City Hall. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Brennan?
I'm happy to say that the Shade Tree Committee gave away quite a lot of trees last week at Arbor Day, and it was a completely miserable day. Everyone was wet, everyone was cold, and everyone was glad to see the noon bell come around, and we scattered to our cars, got out of there. But Charlie Rouse is here. Just under 100 trees were given away nonetheless. We had a lot of folks come by as quickly as they could. But also the good news is that Tom Burrell and his crew have managed to sell in April and May, $930 of firewood, which is amazing to me. And so they added $930 to the city coffers. And the Shade Tree Committee is, as usual, very, very busy. They have made their plans already for the spring and the summer. They know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly where they're going to, what trees they're going to offer next Arbor Day, and they've got the plans for getting the nursery all settled for the summer. That's it.
Thank you, Counselor Brennan. Counselor Gelati?
Good evening, everybody. Bid news, they received a grant for the Gatcher Family Foundation and Hobart William Smith Philanthropy, in action class to include live music for First Friday events this summer. Their first of the season was held on May 1st, and it'll go through September. Next week, the blue tables and chairs will be set up around town. Hanging baskets will go up, and the hometown hero banners will be in place. The bid is currently holding a flower basket fundraiser to further beautification efforts downtown. You can pick up your 14-inch hanging basket at the bid office during regular business hours. I purchased 2 of the baskets. They're pretty awesome, so it's worth at least looking at them. Police Budget Review Board, I do not have a report at this time. As far as Ward 4 residents, a lot of you know that I have email contact information, and I send out emails regularly to Ward 4 residents, keeping them updated on certain events and what's going on with the city. I need more emails. So if you're not on the list and you live in Ward 4, please send me your email address so I can add you to the list. It's a good way for me to communicate with the residents and people that responded pretty positively on my efforts. So that'd be great if you can share your address. Also, you probably already know, maybe you don't, some great news for our school system. Geneva Middle School exits the state accountability status after more than 20 years. The first time in more than 2 decades, Geneva Middle School is no longer under New York State accountability status, making a significant milestone for the school and the Geneva City School District after years of academic and organizational changes. District officials announced Tuesday that the middle school had officially exited accountability status, a designation tied largely to student performance on state assessments that subjected the school to additional oversight for more than 20 years. Those commented this is a defining moment not just for Geneva Middle School, but for our entire community. It reflects sustained effort, strong systems, and a commitment to doing the right work for students over time. I think it's great news. We've been beat up with our school system for a long time, and this is a great step for us. I congratulate all the teachers at middle school and the administration there. It's just an awesome job. That's all I got.
Thank you, Counselor Gelati. Counselor Grimaldi.
I attended the Housing Authority meeting this month. They seem to be doing well. They trucked right along. They're having a little bit of problems collecting rents, but otherwise they seem to be doing well. So, and our new rep that was appointed did not attend until next month. So she'll come in next month. So that's good for me.
Okay, thank you, Counselor. Counselor Gummo.
The Green Committee met, but I was not able to attend that meeting because we had a competing council meeting. The planning board did not meet. But the most important thing, at least for Ward 2, is that with Councilor Lavin, like Councilor Petropoulos mentioned, we had our first ever town hall, I think, for these wards that have never happened, or at least certainly not in the last 48 years. The biggest takeaway for at least myself, I won't speak for Councilor Levin, is that the issues that Ward 2 is facing are the same issues that the rest of the city is facing. We heard very specific Ward 2 issues and instead heard very, I think, holistically about the rising cost of housing, rising cost of rent, the shortage of rental properties that are available, the quality of rental properties that are available. And so I'm very excited about the ad hoc housing committee that the mayor has decided to form that meets later this month. That's it for me.
Thank you, Counselor Gummo. Counselor Lavin.
Thank you. I have, the IDA has not a formal meeting that I haven't been to, but they've been to a discussion with the ad hoc committee, and I'm convinced that they are, at least the issues of the efficiency mission and the relationship with the county are on the agendas and being discussed. There's still, I think, things that the council needs to understand, and when we have more time to talk about it, about what happens to the pilot money that comes in with the registrations and how that interfaces with our economic development efforts, our manager's time, our assistant manager's time, our comptroller's time, in terms of cost-benefit analysis. I think those discussions still need to go further and will be on, but at least they're on the agenda now, and we've had a way to do it, and I'm happy to see that. I thought the number 1 and 2 district award meeting that was really the work of Mr. Gummo, and it was eye-opening to me in one very substantial way. One of the participants in that is here tonight, who gave us a very thoughtful, measured understanding of how 2 people living on $25 or $30 an hour, working at Hobart and other places that we respect in town, are finding it increasingly hard to live in this town, and just shared that information with us. That's at the heart of our challenges, in my opinion. Now I'm going to admonish myself, as I intended to bring back up for this meeting, but didn't have the time to get the parking on South Main and the speed limit on South Main back before us. I pledge to do that by the next meeting. And I also feel that, I have a lot of advice from people on this about privacy, but for 17 years I've been treated daily for some serious diseases. And the testament to the work that Strong can do, and the people both in our community here, but also up in Rochester, is I'm a poster boy for somebody who's been kept alive for 17 years with serious diseases, with constant monitoring. I didn't need to share with the mayor that I am entering a phase in this travel with no complaints at all feeling exactly honored by the years I've been able to keep active and engage in the Boys and Girls Club and this work with the city since I moved back. But I am entering a phase where I'm probably going to be isolated for some time over the next 3 months. There'll be periods I can't predict exactly how the treatments go. They're serious. It's a bit of a Hail Mary probably, but I was originally thinking I should step aside, but talking with the doctors now, talking with the mayor, so that I was going to share with people that I may be absent a little bit more than I have. I don't think I've missed a meeting in 2.5 years, but that I'm going to be I'm not going to be here in person as often because of this, these things I'm going to be undergoing. I am leaving it in the mayor has asked me to stay and see how this goes to make sure that my work and my attention to the people of the First Ward and the people of Geneva in general is as vigilant and as good as I hope it's been over the last 2 years. I'm going to hang in here, but I am at the moment's notice, under the mayor's direction or the council's needs, willing to reconsider that role. But I don't want to just not show up here at meetings and have people in the neighborhood think I'm voting. I've been very happy to do this work. I've never lost so many votes in my life, but I think we're headed in a great direction. I'm very supportive of the mayor's collaborative and collegial way of going about the very things I think that are key to this community growing up. And we're a $28 million business, and it affects everything, including the ability of good employees who we want to stay here. There's great work we're doing here, and I want to make sure that whatever I can contribute is still meets the standard. But I think I should at least let people know that I'm juggling a little bit more than usual.
All right, thank you, and I think I can say on behalf of council, Chris and staff and everyone that we wish you the best as you're working through this. And I think what you've been talking about is pretty much ingrained in most people's minds, certainly. So whereas your voice may be gone, your causes and your call to action certainly hasn't. But I think it's important to understand as you're working through this, there's a lot more unknown than known.
Right.
And that we will just follow this as it's followed, and the appropriate decisions by yourself will be made as it relates to it, but we'll support you in whatever decision you make as a council, for sure. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, we will now move to public comment, which I would like to remind everyone is held to 3 minutes. And just as all have demonstrated, just be professional and civil and to the point, and it would be greatly appreciated. So we're going to first start with Charles King.
Hi. I'm Charles King. I live in Ward 2. First, I want to encourage you to please tell people what acronyms and initials mean. Not all of us have a business background, so we don't immediately know what KPIs are. It's also useful, I think, to spell out what things like ZBA or LDC or IDA are the first time you mention them in a meeting, just to help members of the public who aren't super familiar to catch up a bit. Second, you know that I think that past councils have given you a Herculean task when it comes to fixing powerful volunteer boards. Boards are so under-supported and held to such low standards that fixing government is almost a harder task than creating a new municipality from scratch. We can think of the government of the City of Geneva as 3 branches of government: elected leaders, which are like legislators, staff, which are like the executive branch, and boards, which are quasi-judicial. It's not exactly the same as the separate but equal branches of the federal government, but each of those 3 branches is important, and the volunteer board branch has been so neglected for so long that it is almost entirely rotted out. I do not envy you the task of finding volunteers when volunteering for Geneva's government feels like entering into a trap where you'll be undercut by politically captured staff and crony board members who simply want to rubber stamp everything for the rich and powerful. You have trust to rebuild. I have encouraged you to make powerful volunteer boards and advisory committee appointments 2 distinct agenda items because they are vastly different in power. Instead, you have kept them as one and relegated them to the mid-month meeting, it seems like, which I'm not in favor of, but you're also actually starting to debate and table and vote no and abstain on those appointments, which shows that at least some of you are realizing that this is a profoundly broken system that needs some serious reform. So, thank you for taking the process seriously, But if you're going to fix this, and in the spirit of transparency, I really do think that you do need to do it in the most public monthly meeting with the most transparent process, meaning that you need to put everyone you're planning to appoint onto the agenda so that we're not surprised at the last minute by appointments that aren't on the agenda, as we were in January and as we are tonight, unless we delve deeply into the minutes. How would a football team do with no special teams? Or a baseball team with no outfielders? Or a hockey team with no goalie equipment? Or a basketball team who never takes three-point shots? Volunteer boards are like the missing piece on each of these teams that is putting you in a position where you always lose because you can't really play. We've had $1 million, $5 million, $40 million ideas and projects and not followed through on them because we don't have a system with standards, we don't enforce code, we don't negotiate with developers, and we give up the farm in gigantic pilots, payments in lieu of taxes, every time we get a whiff of success. No $1 million idea is going to make the city any money if we don't have financial development and neighborhood harmony boards that are held to standards and that know what they're doing. That may require different staff liaisons moving forward, and it may require a different sort of oversight. Try to move everything in the right direction toward reform, transparency, professionalism, and standards.
Thank you, Mr. King. Perfect timing. Bolivia Estrada, please.
We gotta get her on. Wish I lived in the first floor. I'd leave tomorrow.
Hello, council members and fellow citizens. I did want to double check right quick. 301 Castle Street is located in which ward?
Whereabouts is 301?
Right on the corner of Pulteney and Castle Street, across from the old hair salon. The house that has fencing around it. One of
I think it's 3.
Yeah, you,
Ward 3. Okay,
yeah,
perfect.
on your side, that's
I
gonna
think
be
so.
you.
Perfect. Okay.
Yellow piece.
Good evening. My name is Bolivia Estrada. I'm a resident of Ward 3 at 301 Castle Street and a professional at Hobart and William Smith Colleges, and I'm here to speak about the unsustainable cost of living for working residents. In the last 6 years, since I moved into my single-family home, my rent has increased by 45.5%, rising from $1,100 to $1,600 per month. This year alone saw a 14.3% jump. That's $200 to my monthly rent. My landlord, Debutante Properties, manages a vast portfolio here in Geneva, reportedly around 80 units. Yet despite these aggressive hikes, basic repairs and maintenance to my home have been non-existent. This isn't just my story. In our local community groups, residents are documenting the debutante effect, where major portfolios expand, the mom and pop market disappears, and tenants are left with no alternatives when rent spikes to match the high revenue short-term rental market. Nearly 50% of Geneva's population are renters. When rents increase by double digits without reinvestment in maintenance and code enforcement, it threatens the stability of half this city. My partner and I represent the ALICE population, that is, asset limited, income constrained, and employed. We are community members here. We are the working engine of Geneva's institutions. We earn too much for public assistance such as Section 8, HEAP, Medicaid, or other social services, but too little to survive in these systemic hikes. At the same time, my utility costs have become a second rent payment. For each of the last 3 months, my NYSEG bill has averaged about $600 per month. This reflects the 22% hike approved last year, which hits Geneva's older housing stock market the hardest. This is not an outlier, it is a community crisis. On social media, neighbors are sharing bills where the delivery charges now exceed the actual cost of the power. We are being squeezed by a system that demands more for less service. Between rent, water, and electricity, my household expenses are outpacing my income. I very much doubt that any of my neighbors are seeing a 22% or 45% increase to their income to match the exponential increases to our cost of living in Geneva. I am here to observe and to ask, what is the city's plan to hold large-scale landlords accountable for maintenance and to protect residents like me from being priced out of the community that we serve. And I would also like to submit this to the city record, please.
Thank you. Appreciate that. All right. Next is Steve Chilbert, please.
Thank you. Steve Chilbert from Ward 4. I'm here on behalf of several residents, specifically in Ward 4, regarding the ongoing sidewalk repair issue that we know is happening. As we know, last year, September, there was on September 3rd a meeting here, and we had one of the residents, Mary Ann Goodman, who attended and pretty much laid out everything that most of us are feeling. And we got the letter last year in the mail on tax day of all things, April 15th, that no, it was this year, that the sidewalks had to be repaired, and they were to the cost of the resident. And we understand that safety and those things need to be done. With a lot of panic, a lot of the older residents, my 82-year-old mother specifically, were not sure how they were going to go about taking care of that. We were very happy to have received the moratorium letter that gave the 9-month pause for any decisions to be made. So that kind of gave everybody a little bit of breathing room. Well, as we know, the 9 months have passed, and just last week the new letter came out, which was basically the same letter as last year. You have 60 days to repair your sidewalks. The only thing that was left out was last year the city would do the work at the cost plus 50% billed to your taxes. The 50% was left out, which is kind of nice because that was felt to be kind of like a little bit of bullying by the city. Do it or we'll charge you more. Well, anyways, in the meeting last time, it was discussed the moratorium. We give the council and staff and neighbors time to come up with better solution. And those solutions could include seeking grant money for sidewalk repairs, splitting the difference with homeowners, whatever. So when the new letter came out last week to the residents, we were a little bit excited to see what it had to say, expecting it to be, we had the meetings, we applied for grants, and this is what we've come up with, where instead it was the same exact letter as 9 months ago. So that unfortunately gives the residents the feeling of, well, what has happened in the last 9 months? Because in their eyes, the only thing that has happened is 9 months have passed. So here we are 9 months later, and nothing has changed, except now the estimates are more. My mother's corner lot, $15,000 last year was the estimate. That has gone up because in the 9 months now, the cost of cement has gone up, labor's gone up. So we're in the same place we were last month or 9 months ago with higher costs and really no resolution. So we are requesting that it's concerning because it seems nothing has been done, and we're now given the same 60 days to comply with only time passing. And now they're even more a panic than they were last year, just simply because the situation has gotten worse for many of the residents. We respectfully request that the city and the council please meet on this and do due diligence, maybe with comparison to neighboring municipalities, perhaps include the school district, especially for Ward 4. We have 2 schools that walk through our ward on a daily basis, and have proactive discussions and come up with something, and please let the residents know so that they know exactly what is happening and how they should proceed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chilbert. Like to update, would anyone else like to address the council? Okay. All right, we will go on to next, which are proclamations. I should have mentioned this at the beginning. We're actually adding to the agenda one more proclamation this evening. There will be 2, one for public service recognition and one actually recognizing Nurses Week. So let me proceed first with what's on the agenda, which we are in the midst of the start of Public Service Recognition Week. And whereas we'd like to recognize for both residents and visitors of the city of Geneva that all city employees who each day make significant contributions to the well-being of our residents and communities And whereas the City of Geneva, the local workforce, provides critical services that our community rely on, including transportation, public safety, recreation, and many more important responsibilities, policies, functions that the government resources implement and oversee. Whereas we are grateful for the many public servants at all levels, including military, police officers, firefighters, social workers, first responders, healthcare professionals, highway maintenance workers, teachers, laborers, safety inspectors, administrative staff, engineers, computer technicians, along with countless others. We thank them for their professional efforts that are a fundamental part of people's lives. And whereas day in and day out our public employees provide the diverse services demanded by Genevans of their government with efficiency, integrity, and accountability. And whereas the Geneva City Council takes this opportunity to thank the hundreds of thousands of dedicated public employees who work at the state, county, city, and every other level of government. I therefore hereby proclaim May 3rd to May 9th as Public Service Recognition Week in the City of Geneva, and encourage all to show their recognition and appreciation to all public employees here in Geneva, across the county, and across the state. So I believe everyone would join me in that. I'd make one other comment, that there are 12 City of Geneva employees in particular who earned the Geneva Grit and Greatness recognition, and those award recipients. So I'd like to point that out as well. One or two of whom may be here this evening. One sitting very quietly in the corner over there, who doesn't like attention drawn to herself. The second proclamation is regards to the nurses. Whereas nurses serve on the front lines of healthcare, providing skilled, compassionate care to residents of the City of Geneva each day. Whereas nurses play a critical role in promoting health, preventing illness, delivering high-quality care across hospitals, clinics, long-term care facilities, schools, and homes. And whereas their work requires not only clinical expertise, but also empathy, resilience, and a deep commitment to the well-being of others. And whereas nurses often serve as advocates, educators, and trusted partners for patients and families during life's most important and vulnerable moments. And whereas the contributions of nurses strengthen the health of our community and improve the quality of life for all who live, work, and visit Geneva, I would therefore state that it be resolved that I declare May 6th through May 12th as Nurse Appreciation Week in the City of Geneva, and encourage all residents to recognize and thank nurses who serve our community with dedication, professionalism, and care. Let this week serve as a reminder of all their quiet strength and steady presence nurses bring to every patient they serve. Their work leaves a lasting impact on countless lives across our city. Okay. Next is a discussion, and there's two items here that are both under my element here, and I'd like to welcome and thank Chiefs Evelyn and Parada for being here this evening. And to give some background for those participating and viewing, the council passed a strategic plan not too long ago, and within that we outlined a series of objectives of which and by which we want to achieve as a part of that strategic plan. So Chief and Dell, this will be interactive. I don't know if you want to grab a seat with a microphone as I'm introducing this. What I wanted to do, and encouraging, we've asked them to prepare nothing for this, by the way. This all goes to, and I want to stress this, communication. This all goes to understanding what the council's thinking and doing, and hearing, at least first run, what Chief Parada, Chief Evelyn are thinking as we look at this strategic plan. I'm not a fan of surprises, right? I'll say that personally. I'm a fan of communicating and understanding as we go and move forward, because when you have to make a difficult decision, it's best to be at least heard and understood. So the effort here today is just to talk through some of the elements of the strategic plan, get your thoughts, just initial thoughts on them, especially as we go into budget season, as we go into thinking about what we need to do to make sure that you really at the forefront of what public safety means for this city. It's critical. It's one of our top priorities. And so we want to make sure it's heard and understood as we move forward. So I want to open with that just for the clarity of council, for the clarity of the public, that's what this discussion is for. Okay? All right. So I think you've had a chance to take a look. I didn't know if you had any initial comments, Chief, I can certainly go through this.
No, I definitely reviewed the strategic plan in whole, not just the public safety section of it. I believe that our fire department's mission fundamentally aligns with many aspects of that strategic plan. Safe housing, safe environments, fire prevention, just the general life safety and property conservation for the city. I think it hits a lot of those strategic points. So I think we're aligned, at least fundamentally, to start. I'm willing to answer any questions and happy to be here. And I think it's a great start. I reviewed again the whole document, and I do think there's many areas where it aligns.
I'd love to get, if you don't mind, Chief, and we'll certainly, it's open to questions from the council. I'd like to start with something in this, especially as it relates to a couple of these components of the strategic plan overlap and certainly run into each other. I think the first is in terms of offering, I want to first start with ensuring we're offering the optimal structure, the optimal service to the public from a paid and volunteer, that we continue to be in a position to move that forward, that there's nothing you see in here that potentially threatens that or puts it into a position that might change the very nature of what I think is one of the diamonds of this entire region. And that is the strength of our paid and the strength of our volunteer firefighters. It's really, truly remarkable, especially as I've met with other mayors in the county and in the state who are severely lacking in some cases in both. So a testament to this city, to you, and to the history of the fire department. So it's a long way of asking, if we want to maintain this, is there anything in the strategic plan that you're seeing or hearing that potentially threatens that, or you want us to be aware of?
Not directly. There's nothing that says really outlines funding or needs of the fire department specifically. The needs, I think, have always kind of been there. They need funding, they need training, they need support, they need equipment, especially when you bring in a volunteer aspect. Public support and morale are a huge component of that. And I think not being supported is why you see a lot of volunteer organizations, not just fire department, but a lot of volunteer organizations holistically in your communities are failing because they're just not supported or funded. I think volunteering is a huge component. I think, like Mr. King alluded to earlier, it's a necessary component to drive down tax dollars and keep the same level of service. If you don't have your volunteers in this community, our department will fail. So volunteers are a huge part of it. The career side of the house is another component that makes us really effective at what we do. It ensures our fast response. It ensures that we have a high level of training and a high level of continuity. Our career staff seem to enjoy a full career here. We don't see losing them to other departments, so our retention rates are great because they are well supported and well funded. So I think we do have a secret sauce. I think we've seen that fail in communities around us on the volunteer side of the house, on the career side, and the combination side. In this county, we had 3 career staff departments where we had career members. We had Fishers, Canandaigua, and us. Fishers was mainly all career, but they have now folded. Canandaigua was a combination department, and now they're fully career department. We're the only combination department left standing, and that's because of the work of the community, our taxpayers, our council, and our firefighters.
I think there's not a person in this room who would state in any way, shape, or form that the position we're in is enviable in many respects. To comment, or at least ask then about change and where the market, where we're headed, where things are headed, where we're going, whether it's from a financial position, a regional position. You very often are answering calls in different jurisdictions. You're very often getting the help of other people from other jurisdictions here in the city. It's a remarkable thing and one to continue to encourage. Do you see or foresee, or can you foresee any changes in terms of how we regionalize as a fire department and what we can offer to different parts of our region, whether it's the town, whether it's border city? It doesn't matter. You don't have to put anyone in precise line of sight, but do you see that changing?
You do see some changes, especially when we're talking about mutual aid. That's our shared services lingo in the fire service. Mutual aid it's supposed to be mutual, right? It's supposed to go both ways, and it does. It currently sits that way. We do offer a lot of assistance outside of our jurisdiction, but we also have that backfill, that component that they also support the city of Geneva. So currently it is pretty mutual. The numbers really balance themselves out. Having those agreements and those partnerships help us keeping insurance rates down, keeping us having a fast response, having backup. If you notice in any press releases that go to the media, you'll always see our mutual aid partners listed in there because we use them quite often, just like they use us. It is mutually beneficial at this point in time. I do think there's strain on outside agencies that could eventually be using us more than we use them. And there's some definitely opportunities for regionalization on those types of items. So.
All right, thank you. Council, any questions or?
Chief, you know, I'm a journalist, so I'm going to ask you the tough question here. If I offered you to borrow $400,000 from the town of Geneva to assume responsibility for fire coverage to the incremental border extension from the city of Geneva to the town of Geneva, could you do that?
It's a tough question to answer on the spot. There's a lot of components to that. There's a lot of factors in there.
You're often first at any what I'd call real fire, known flames, report smoke, regardless of where it is in this region. I mean, in our corner of the county, you're first.
That's semi-true.
You're
There's
most
some truth to that.
professional, and you're the best trained.
I appreciate the compliment.
Well, I'm not making that up. Those are just measurable things.
Sure. There's a distance factor. The far edges of the town, I don't know if we would actually time-wise beat the departments already in place there. So there's a lot of factors. There's membership. Are we stretched too thin as it is? So it's not just here's a check and it's going to fix the problem. I think there's a lot of components, a lot of discussion that would have to happen for that to be really ever considered.
Sure.
Appreciate that, Councilor Lavin.
That's a great question, though. I mean, you do see that happening all over.
All over the country.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not off base by asking the question for sure.
Councilor Kane.
With the reciprocity that you're doing with these different, is there any, and will you let us know if there's any places where there is a deficit where we seem to be going out more and a way to remedy that and maybe make a deal, you know, with the area and see what we can do to, you know, keep them safe and you know.
Yeah, we have been having regular conversations for the past year with all the adjoining districts, and there is deficits kind of on both sides of the house, right? We have a deficit on specialized rescue and more technical teams. They have a deficit of daylight hours, 6 to 6 staffing of calls. So I don't know that there's a problem today that is overwhelming either system. But again, you guys would be the first to know. City manager would be the first to know if there's any.
Right,
any
but we
issues
don't,
with that.
I myself don't like problems.
Sure.
I like to stop them before they
Sure.
hit. But so if you could, you know, in those areas where you're starting to see that, if you could let us know, I'm not saying tonight
Sure.
here, but let us know and maybe come up with some ideas of how we might be able to remedy that, or
Yeah.
you know, be able to work with somebody, that way everybody gets what they need.
Yeah, that is the current conversation. That is an ongoing meeting that we're hosting. The mayor, city manager, other town supervisors, and all the other district chiefs are all involved in those constant conversations of where's our strengths and weaknesses and how do we overcome those threats to us. So
And it's nice to meet, but sometimes you have to come to an agreement before the bad
I-
things come knocking on the door.
I
so.
agree. I agree.
Thank you.
Some of those decisions are, I'm here to advise, and some of those decisions are a little bit above my pay grade. So I'll definitely advise.
Well,
if
that's why
there's any
we want you to come to us.
definitely
Appreciate
be-
it,
be
Councilor
my
Kane.
first call.
Any other questions for comments for the chief? Again, we don't want to go too deep in the weeds. We're not at that point. This is about understanding the broad strokes of the strategic plan to get some initial thoughts back and forth about what to keep our eye on as we go into the budget. In particular, there will be very precise guidelines for all departments within the city to talk about what they're doing, how they're doing, can they do differently, if so what, and how can we do that. It's a very simple way of saying today doesn't mean we do the same thing we do tomorrow. And I think the encouragement here, you've certainly heard from Councilors Kame and Lavin, and I think each of here would embrace any ideas to improve our current position from a financial standpoint, but not at the expense of threatening really our ability to protect the people of Geneva. So I want to be very careful with that. But if there are different ways to do it, we know we could come, I think, to a discussion, a comment where we could agree and support anything along those lines. So I think it's important you hear that.
Yeah, I concur. It's Geneva first. This is where our funds are coming from. This is who we support directly, and that'll never change for the City of Geneva Fire Department.
All right, thanks, Chief. Chief Eveland, if we can put the spotlight on you.
Good evening. I'll go mostly of what Chief Parada said as far as the mission and the progress of the police department aligning with council's strategic plan. I look at where we are in the first quarter of 2026, and I think the key word that comes to mind with the police department is stability. Looking at our staffing, we're at 33 and a half. We're just 2 members shy of being a full staffed department, which I don't think I've seen in my tenure in the department. And it's, our call volume is going up. Our arrest numbers were just at around 280 for quarter 1, which is one of the highest that we have seen. But morale is staying up there. Recruitment and retention is very positive right now. I think the police department's in a very good place.
Okay. So Chief, similar questions, at least for me to start. In terms of looking forward, looking ahead, and certainly maintaining the integrity of the police force and its ability to execute its duty to community, to protect and serve, that you do have additional staff that's looking to be brought on, additional officers. In terms of looking forward, really where you look towards the future, without getting into specifics, I'm not asking you to do that, but at least at a minimum, do you see opportunities to do things differently at the county or state level even that might help us deal and manage with precarious issues around budget, around other situations that maintain that safety, if not even improve it by different ways of collaborating or working on a regional standpoint?
Yeah, similar to the fire service, we have a mutual aid. We work very closely with the New York State Police and the Ontario County Sheriff's Office. And it's a lot of the give and the take. I look at the most recent tragedy that happened in the town of Geneva, just directly across the street from the city line. There was a recent homicide. I got a phone call from the sheriff that night asking for some investigative help because he was short-staffed with investigators. My staff was immediately ready. They were adamant they didn't want to leave, and so the suspect was apprehended. And that investigation quickly went from the town of Geneva to the city of Geneva. And it was kind of remarkable to see 2 agencies work so collaboratively together, sharing that information. So I think we're in a good spot with that. I would say we are probably more on the receiving end when it comes to getting extra services. There's times the sheriff's department comes in and state police, and obviously they have more staffing with a bigger budget. So what we have been focusing on a lot over the last couple of years is relationship building. And I think we have a very strong partnership with both agencies. One of the additions we made last year, we had 2 detectives that became cross-designated with the New York State Police. And a lot of that assistance comes back to the city of Geneva that we just don't have. So I think that's there. That's something we want to continue to build on. And I'm excited for that.
Appreciate that, Chief. Counselors, any other questions? Counselor Lavin?
Just to be consistent, I'm, as I am with the fire department, never want to be seen as criticizing the hard work. Nobody knows here more because I've done a lot of it myself, of the world you live in day in and day out, and I respect that. But every organization that's asked to do more with less, because resources again takes a creative thinking that's outside the box. And I think part of the issue with policing is that if every department tries to create the exact what's defined as the full department, it challenges efforts that you see around the country now to do countywide policing, to get the officers where they need to be at the time of the day and in the response to the event, rather than municipally based and limited and trying to duplicate the same services, investigative services, detective services, all the things in all these places. And in Geneva, you have Canandaigua and you have Geneva. Everybody else, for the most part, are sheriffs who are covering dozens of miles a night in their area. I'm just wondering if you find the discussions going on anywhere in the police world about the consolidation we see around the country to keep the same quality of care and perseverance, the emergency response, that sort of thing, but to to think differently about, we have county supervisor here who has a sheriff's department, and you use them for investigations. Do you see any energy in that at all in this region that's facing tax issues outside of Geneva too? But
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, because I had a feeling that question may have been brought up tonight. You know, I do.
So predictable.
I do see that in some areas. You know, mostly I think it's with the smaller departments that they may not have the intricate investigations or the amount, the quantity. You know, for a community the size of Geneva, I do think it's necessary that we have it. I really do. I think that if we looked at a reduction in our investigative services to receive assistance, I do think the public safety aspect would decline. You know, there's something to be said about having an officer that is on the road for 5, 10, 15 years of really getting to know not just the department, but more importantly, the community. And that plays a huge part when you're investigating these big crimes. Because largely when you start dealing with these types of crimes, if you don't have any solid evidence right there to tie somebody to it, you need some cooperation. And when you're able to build that relationship up through the course of a career, it's important. So that's a big piece to it. And then also just the internal dynamics, you know, having a detective bureau that is ready and able, you know, just down the hallway, it's very beneficial to myself, staff, for the officers to go to for that information. And that is a huge career development, career growth opportunity that we will lose with our current staff. And, you know, with having such a young staff, that is something that I would be worried about if we had some sort of reduction like that, you know, for retention purposes. You know, I made it a point over the last 2 years to sit down with every new member that we have hired, and kid you not, every single one of them said they wanted to be a detective, with the exception of one. He had aspirations of becoming a sergeant, but then he did flip. So from a retention standpoint, that would be very difficult, I think, just because there's not many areas of growth here in the city of Geneva for the police department.
Councilor Petropoulos.
Yeah, Chief, I noticed over the last, 2 years certainly, you've streamlined a lot, and that says a lot. But I also read that you guys assisted the fire department with the drone. I don't know if you've always done that sort of thing, but it sort of tells me that you are thinking outside the box. I also had a reason to have one of Geneva's finest come for, I can't remember why I called, but he mentioned there are 3 officers going to bicycle school.
Yes, sir.
So you're doing more with less, because these 3 bicycle officers will probably patrol more of the downtown area where, you know, the car just kind of goes and, you know, there's no fit. So less of a question and more of a, you know, kudos to you for that. But can that be continued based on our strategic plan? Can we continue to, for example, help the fire department out or have them help you guys out when needed? I know, you know, the relationship between you, the sheriff, and now the state police, I see them around a little more often. You know, is that further cooperation possible? Yeah, I'm not administratively to combine it to one big police force for the I don't know where that's going on, but we have it pretty good here. What in the strategic plan could trip things up for you? I know with Chief Parada it wasn't so much that. You don't have a volunteer force, so it's a different. So if you can answer that in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the 2 biggest things right now is, you know, money and people. Certainly, if my staff got reduced, or if I had, you know, retirements or laterals out, and I wasn't able to rehire, that would be problematic. I could see the service just kind of staying flat. You know, we're not going to be able to do some of these extra initiatives such as bike patrol. One of my targets this year is I want to get the bicycles out in the downtown area and try to combat some of the e-bike stuff. So that was one of the big thoughts with that, and then along with the quality of life related issues. You know, when we make these decisions, and, you know, obviously, you know, my operational budget is relatively thin. So I think having taken a step back and really looking creatively and how can I implement a program at the department that is going to be fiscally responsible, and it's going to be a benefit to the city. And the drone was probably my favorite one right now. It's been my new favorite toy, but wonderful, wonderful implications. And I'll just share a couple with the community members that are here. We got this drone purchased through a grant program, and quickly realized all of the implications that it has, not just to the police service, but within its first week of inception, we've used it to inspect some water lines that were in disrepair in a precarious area, so DPW staff didn't have to worry about getting injured trying to get down there. And then the capabilities with the fire. Our drone does have thermal imaging on there, so we were able to get the drone up overhead and see where the hot spots were on the fire, and obviously there was no safe way for the fire department staff to do that. So, I think moving forward, being fiscally responsible, creative, and then also just collaborating with our partners is going to be the biggest thing for the success of the Police Department of Public Safety in Geneva.
Thanks.
Councilor Kane.
Don't melt the drone. Obviously, the blue laws are gone, and the call numbers are going up. So, is it an increase in petty crimes, or do you see more severe crimes going up? Where
It's hard to say right now without really doing an analysis of the breakdown. I'm not seeing anything different that is alarming. A lot of what is going on or what we are seeing, it's complaint based, but I'm not able to really specify right now.
I understand that. And I thank you for the work that you do, because a lot of people don't realize you're out there. I go out at night and I take a walk and I see you guys out there working, and we got some brave people in our force, and I just want to make sure that they got what they need and that they're safe, and so thank you.
Thank you, Councilor.
Any other questions, comments for the chief? Chief, appreciate that alignment. I'm sure we'll have much more interesting discussions in the foreseeable future, but certainly this helps set the table and the tone. So to you and Chief Parada, I appreciate that. The next piece of business, and it is actually, believe it or not, all comes back to, in no small way, the debt strategy proposal that was presented to council at our last meeting. A few notes since then, we actually received from Moody's, and if you want to know what Moody's is, think about this big entity that tells you how much credit and what your credit worth is as an entity, as a city. That's really what it means. So they tell us what our credit is, whether it's good or not so good. What they told us is our credit's pretty good. They basically gave us a rating. If you think of the highest tier, it's at the bottom of the highest tier, but it's still up there. That's not bad, right? And it reflects our current condition. What they didn't do was take a forward-looking view on what that means and with where we're headed. But they certainly did give some indicators. So I had sent to the to the Ad Hoc Finance Committee, of which one of the members is here this evening, as well as to council, additional information on that through the lens of the debt strategy, suggesting there might be some enhancements or alterations to it. I did make, and I will admit, I used AI to help me as my intern is no more, and part of the information I had in there was not correct. So I am redoing that as we speak to correct that information, and we'll reissue that so that we can review this and vote on it in June. But what I want to say again is, I mentioned it, there is an iceberg ahead. The forecast is cloudy for us. And with regard to this preliminary analysis that I'd sent, I'll just use one example. I think this presses the point that everyone will understand. And Charles, to your point, I'm going to actually use the whole word and no acronyms. So there's something called a ban, which really is just short-term debt. That's all it is, right? And all it means is we're borrowing money short-term for a project to see it through. And we borrowed about $15 million this year, got terrific terms for it, given our credit rating, which is great. Actually so favorable, it actually bought down the interest rate, which is awesome. We have to convert that to long-term debt. That starts next year, right? So if you think of the horizon, this is where I'm talking about the clouds. This is where I'm talking about where the iceberg is, and we can see it. And I'm going to give you some examples from it. So if we were, for example, to convert all that short-term debt into long-term debt. It literally would take, for example, some of those ratios they look at to tell us how strong we are, right? And they actually introduce, for example, ratios that go up that actually threaten to downgrade our rating, right? And if our rating goes down, that means our costs go up. It's that simple, right? So as we hear Chief Parada, we hear Chief Evil, and as we hear all departments through this budget season, the question always comes back to, and I'm going to link this back to Mrs. Strada and your comments on affordability. If the debt service today, and there is an important ratio here of what and how much we pay and the taxpayers bear for debt service, goes direct to affordability, directly, because the taxpayers bear it. And it goes up, everything goes up, right? And you're talking a full, when you think of everything, 17% of our total budget, sewer, water, general fund, 70% of our budget pays for debt. It's just pretty high. Matter of fact, we're on the high end of the average. And what Moody's tells us is, if it goes any higher, that threat of a downgrade is one of the drivers. That goes to affordability. So the message I have now as we go into this is, we're going to create this debt strategy, introduce it next month, go through it in a very clear, concise way, and use that as a means or a method to make the decisions we'll need to make to ensure that the integrity of our long-term position here as a city is maintained. I think it's very important to say that. So I wanted to just at least introduce that to everyone. You've certainly gotten the memo. The bulk of it's accurate of what I distributed. It's really the benchmarks that were screwed up in some of the band stuff. Sorry to use the acronym, that's the short-term debt. But I'm going to revise that and send it around. So I wanted to pause there. That's the update. I didn't know if anyone had any other comments on that.
I just
Councilor
wanted to add that Mrs. Strada's comments tonight are what happens when we throw stuff on the budget at the end, and its effect comes out down the line, and we have to connect those things. And that's what you're doing, and I really admire the way you're doing it. But in the end, we have some tough, this was going to force tough choices.
Absolutely.
With some idea that the people who can't pay for their own sidewalks and the people who work full-time and can't keep up with the rents that's the function of our economy here. And I admire your ability, your desire to keep that in the forefront, and it's a paradigm change, really, in the way we've done business.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Again, more informational at this point as we move this forward. All right. Mayor's report. I'll keep this as brief as I can. One very happy thing that the city manager hosted the Boy Scouts here the other night. I know you're going to talk about it, but I love seeing, they were all here. I said any one of them can have my seat if they so chose. They were terrific. Asked a lot of great questions, but you're talking about the future leaders, or some very interested young boys who are future leaders, and it was terrific to have them here. Couple things. I met with several Ontario County mayors earlier this week. What's top of mind for them is around staffing, and in particular those in water and sewer who hold licenses. They're having great difficulty in attracting and retaining staff in that regard, and they're even looking at how they can leverage and work with other municipalities to use their licenses to help them run their water and sewer departments. They talked a lot about economic development and the ability to attract and retain grants to grow. And there is a disconnect with some in terms of the county and the county services, but they talked a lot about how we do a better job at the county of economic development, especially as it related in a lot of ways to tourism, which was interesting. And finally, that the effort of the county in this, who brought this together, to continue to hold these dialogues, I thought important, because as we talk about regionalization, as I sat next to the mayor of Phelps and the mayor of Clifton Springs and others, they very openly talked about different ways that they could utilize services of other municipalities to help offset these issues of shortages in cost and expense. So it's very much front of mind with these other mayors and at the county. Next week, I'll be attending the NICOM conference. I'm actually participating in groups around economic development and infrastructure. So we'll be focused on that. I'll report back on that. The ad hoc committees, I think I've given you the update around finance. In housing, you heard earlier, the kickoff's on May 26th. Again, affordability is at the heart of that. Also, at downtown, we met the other evening and we focused on the IDA, where they presented. Next is either going to be LDC or the county. We're working on that, but we'll continue on that front. And then finally, I think the thing I want to say is we're actually working towards doing something for the 250th, really involving and leveraging from the Firemen's Parade. There's nothing officially planned in the city for the 250th that I'm aware of, or any of us were aware of. So we're trying to actually raise some money to have a nice fireworks display after the Firemen's Parade on the 11th. So we're currently trying to raise some funds for that. So I'll put some stuff out on my site in the city, certainly seeking anyone who wants to get involved and help sponsor that. Because I think it's very, very, very attainable. It'd be nice to celebrate the 250th in Geneva somehow. That therefore ends my report. The city manager.
Yes, so we had a lot of celebration in the last month, then coming up this week. So last month was Administrative Professionals Day, and we celebrated our 5 administrative assistants throughout the city. So we celebrated our 2 assistants in the police department, Shannon Parada and Taylor Shane, our 2 that help serve the fire department, Ann Alamo and Lauren Carlson, with Lauren also servicing code, and then Jackie Lavoie and DPW. So those are our 5 admin assistants, and their work really makes all of our teams run smoothly. As we also mentioned, this week is Public Service Recognition Week, and it is a time really to celebrate the dedication and professionalism of the team that brings this community together. This year we started the Geneva Grit and Greatness Awards, and these were nominated by peers, and so it's always really remarkable to hear what peers say about one another, not even in the same department, sometimes across departments and throughout the organization. So we were able to recognize Brandon Wayne, Jackie Lavoie, Jeff Grieco, Jennifer Sutton, Jeremiah Gardner, Kelly Doblin, Kevin Reed, Lauren Carlson, Lou Boyer, Nicole Tittleson, Thomas Benjamin, and Tom DiCostanzo. So they set the bar for a lot of us for a lot of different reasons. It was pretty nice for me to read all of those great reasons, and they'll be receiving some information more on that. And this week is also City Clerk's Week. And so we already mentioned that Nicole does not like to be recognized, but as an office of one, I think we probably should recognize her for all of her hard work. So thank you, Nicole. On to some other pieces. We've just talked a little bit about budget. Budget season is underway. Initial projections were given out in April, which is always early into the projection cycle. At the same time, I'm going to talk more about the Q1 financials in just a moment, but our sales tax numbers have come in and they trended $40,000 above what we were above 2025, which means they're above our projections as well. And at this time, at the last council meeting, a resolution was brought forward to put a hiring freeze in place, except for under public safety and public works, as well as things that were deemed essential services. I just bring this up because one of those positions that is up for discussion and will be discussed later is the city clerk position, which if we determine to freeze that position, we may, our deputy city clerk. Don't want to say that. Sorry, Nicole. She's already sweating about this one. I was going to say she's packing up over this position, so if I take hers away, she's definitely out. But the deputy city clerk, as well as some support to our assessor's office, are both under that hiring freeze, which means we may have some service delays or changes as we go through that. Under housing and development, multiple housing projects are starting to move throughout the pipeline. One of the ones that started my first year here 4 years ago was the Middle Street Apartments. They received a Restore New York grant where 9 units are under construction and anticipated to be open within the month. So we are getting very close to having 9 new apartments online. We also have the $600,000 housing rehab program. We now have 3 families that are getting funding through that. That helps them do major repairs at their homes. We had many more applicants than funding, but we're hoping that somehow that funding reappears. On downtown economic development, the Long Pier stabilization efforts, which repurposes some of our final DRI funds to make Long Pier stabilized and replace the docking, is moving forward. We have bids. We should be able to move that. And then for our small businesses, we received $180,000 for our MAP program. And so in the coming months, the Micro Enterprise Assistance Program, MAP, will be up and launching again soon, so those small businesses can get some support there. Last week, we also had Career Day at the Recreation Complex with 60 organizations connecting with students from 12 schools about what their future could be. We're looking forward to the summer park meetups, which are going to be family-friendly gatherings sponsored by Geneva Community Projects with games and ice cream, supported by our recreation team. And summer camp is right around the corner. So if you want to sign up for summer camp, the recreation department has relocated completely to the rec complex. Right now they're working on some roofing repairs, but they are down there, and that's where you can go ahead and sign up for that. We've talked police and fire, so I'm going to skip over some of the public safety. I think they both discussed what those calls look like. And city staff just completed a very intensive communications training 2 weeks ago. And so you'll see some changes in how we communicate. I think for some of us, the biggest surprise is our average age as a city is 32 years old, which is very young for an average resident. And also how they communicate is not on any of the social media or channels that we are on. So we're missing a large percentage of our population. So we're looking at new ways to do that. Under infrastructure, Castle Street, which is about 38% complete. And I know there's lots of discussions about how long is this going. September, we will get there. But remember, this is a full street reconstruction project. So we are going all the way down, replacing all of the lines underneath, and then putting sidewalks and all of that back together. It's a pretty big deal. On other notes, water meter upgrades are underway. Those are to improve accuracy in reading. We're not replacing your whole system. We're just replacing how we track the water to ensure that we are really getting an accurate report. And so please work with us if you have not had that change. I know that there's concerns, especially after NYSEG and others have had those changes, about what's going to happen. Some water bills also looked a little higher because you actually got an extra week of a bill because we delayed 1 week while we were setting this up, so you paid a higher percentage because you're paying an extra week of your bill. Feel free to reach out if you have concerns about that. Also, things that people will be concerned about, the revaluation notices have gone out. If they have not arrived in your mailbox, they will be arriving probably this week or next. Again, reach out to staff. There's a lot of discussion in there on how the valuations of properties happen. Reach out to our team. Our assessor is here, and she is more than willing to work with people. And finally, city is addressing some gatherings and noise and litter concerns. Being a college town, when it gets nice and warm and sunny, not like today, people like to gather. It's not just college students, though. It's all of us. And so we're working with the colleges, code, police, and others to just work on cleaning things up. Not only that, I also had the reminder of cleaning up pet waste when you're out walking your animals. There's been some concerns about that as well. So please take care of your neighbors. That's the biggest thing about being a city, is we all have to be in this together. And with that, I'm going to continue talking in a minute.
Yes, as I go next.
Your Honor, could I just ask, I don't know if this is the time to ask the manager your question, but the last IDA meeting I was at, there was a discussion of us paying somewhere between $300,000 and $500,000 to tear down a building that we don't own. Is that going to be in this next
I
report?
think that's for this question, for this.
Oh, okay.
I'll wait for this.
All right.
Councilor.
I just would love to hear at some point the origins of that decision. But
Just a moment while I remember how to do this. I promised Peter I could do it, but we'll see.
Well, just like that, on one screen.
Yes. Let's just make sure it's actually working. There we go. All right, so changing hats. I think I've got it. Do you want it on this screen too? There we are.
Look at you.
I was gonna say, I think I'm on the third screen tonight for you guys, so we're moving through this. All right, so it is, we're gonna go through the first quarter budget report and where we're at. Our total budget among all three funds is $33.2 million. In comparison, I know the school board, our school representatives were at the IDA, or LDC today, sorry, Local Development Corporation, to present their budget. Their budget proposal is $77 million, so our city budget is a little smaller than the school district budget. So our budget is across three funds, and we'll dive into what each of those funds look like. One of the things you'll see that this presentation uses some of the color coding, which I know the mayor favors. Green really means that we're on pace for the first quarter. Yellow means let's monitor it. And red will indicate a line item to watch. It's the first quarter though, and so it's a little challenging because we may have something that has come in and it all comes in the first quarter, so it'll turn red because you've already expended that line, but we were planning to expend that line in the first quarter. So I'll highlight that as we go on. All right. Three funds, one quarterly snapshot. Here you see where our three funds are. So our general fund budget, that's the operations of the city, is $23.2 million. We have collected $12.2 million of our revenue there. 52.9% collection within the first quarter. We'll get in a little deeper on what that means. Property tax collections comes in the first quarter. And so we've done really well at collecting the property taxes. It's everything else that builds the rest of the revenue throughout the year. That's where you see a difference between water fund and sewer fund. Again, this snapshot goes through March 31st. If you think about when your first water and sewer bills are, they are not within that first quarter, so they are trickling in right now. We've collected about 20.4% of the total revenue on water fund and 22.3% collected on the sewer fund. Again, the combined fiscal revenue activity right now is $14.4 million of the $33.2. Not bad for our first quarter. Oh. Yes, go ahead.
I just want to understand the water and sewer collection. I think you're saying, hey, if we were to like recut these numbers in 2 more weeks, then we'd be closer to 25%.
We'd be well above 25, but yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, great.
Yep, it's just how the tides come in and when things come in. So here are our sources of revenue, and you will see the light blue is our budgeted line and the dark blue is what our actuals are. So this really shows on general fund. You've gotten your property taxes, but sales and use tax we haven't gotten, state aid funding, assistance for municipalities or AIM we have not gotten. Pilot we've only had a part of. Interest and earnings, you're gonna get a quarterly percentage on that, and then occupancy tax we don't collect until later in the quarters. Enterprise funds, that's again our water and sewer. We talked a little bit about this. This is just a repeat. These percentages are colored yellow because they're below the 25% pace of collection. Again, we knew this would be the case, but I wanted you to be aware using that system. And this is what both of those lines look like when we look at where they're at. You can see where those revenues are coming in. They're below.
I have a question about that, sorry.
Mhm.
Why is gas and oil with insurance?
Why is gas and oil? It's just how we put them all together. So
Okay.
it's not employee insurance. It's insurance on those properties,
Okay.
all of that, and
Understood.
they go in as a utility
Is the...
or service cost.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
And transfer to general fund and transfer to other funds, they are the same thing. They are the transfer out that we do, we do out for the services provided by the general fund. So the general fund, I'm gonna take you through 24 slides as quickly as possible. We're gonna talk about department by department activity. Again, you're gonna see the red, yellow, green on this. Where it stands out, I'll give you a little glimpse into it. So the first one is city council. You'll see you have a yellow one there. Codification of ordinances. So every time you pass an ordinance, it gets codified and it goes into our ordinances in the document. Nicole takes care of all of that. At the beginning of the year, we often have to catch up from the previous year, and so that's where a majority of that funding is coming from, is anything that happened last quarter of last year gets codified. And there tends to be quite a few resolutions towards the end of that year. The mayor's office, this is red only because the NICOM membership comes out at the beginning.
I thought it was the high pay.
It's partially that. And again, it shows you the percentage left. There's not a lot left in the NICOM membership. We budgeted that, but it is red because when we look at the first quarter, it's using a higher percentage than the others. The city manager's office. So one thing that we've added to this, and Adam and I are still refining how we're adding it, we have not been breaking out department, Social Security, and employee health insurance. And so what you'll see is some will turn yellow or red because more of the dig into the total balance is coming out at different quarters. That should balance out over the years. It doesn't necessarily reflect the total cost at this point. We have to refine further. One other point I should make on this is you may see some of these where it says you've spent 0K, but we're X amount under. Anything under 1,000 was rounded, and so that's why 0K, but you spent 70, or you have 70% remaining. It's just under $1,000. I think my office supplies line is $200, so spent a little there. Comptroller's budget, you will see they are already over budget on office supplies and audit fees. So audit fees came in much higher than anticipated. It's a mandated cost. It's something we have to do. So you'll see that red there. We'll look at how we recoup that later on. The assessor's office, you'll see again, here's another one where employee health insurance is not pacing. It's not anything to be cautious of. It's just something we're watching. Not anything to be concerned about. It's something we're just watching because of how we're now doing this and allocating it to each department. The city clerk, their software line is completely empty, and that is because we have procured our new software. This is actually the first meeting where our new agenda software has been utilized. It should provide some additional efficiencies. FOIL software will also be a part of that in the future. City attorney, this represents our general counsel as well as outside counsel. It's only one line, pretty easy to track there. Human resources, again, some fees that come out at the beginning of the year, reporting fees, things like that. They're always at the beginning of the year when we report them. DPW engineering, they're at 70.8% remaining. You'll notice the equipment replacement line is red. That's because that's where they purchased the capital equipment. So anything that was planned to be purchased, we purchase at the beginning of the year. I will say we start the purchase at the beginning of the year. Sometimes it's very difficult to get that equipment in, and so it needs to be utilized early on to make sure that we get delivery within the year. DPW highway, you will see a couple reds here. We had some snow at the beginning of this year. Which meant that we had to use some funding for snow removal and salt, as well as overtime pay. This is a bit of a concern. One of the things about DPW, though, is when we talk about snow and ice, you're talking 2 seasons of the year. So you have the front, hopefully, we'll have a calm fall and early winter, and then maybe have it happen next year, but we will monitor this. Overtime pay is a concern. This also can be storms that are not snow events, so flooding, things like that. Some of the repair work, we just did some repair work on Dorchester Avenue. Things like that that are unexpected could result in overtime. IT, our IT department is at 80.3%. One of the things I will point out here is the salary line, because we budgeted a third IT person. Now remember, on the salary line, half of these costs go to the city of Canandaigua. because we share them. So when I say we budgeted a third person, it means we're up to 1.5 FTEs in our IT department because of how we share those services. But it also means that for the first, I think we just brought him on last month. So for the first quarter, we were running with 2 staff with 3 budgeted. And again, website maintenance, miscellaneous, those are all things that we incur at the beginning of the year. Police, again, they're on pace. Overtime and holiday pay seem to be tracking fairly well. Health insurance, you see get hit here a little. Again, we'll look at the front loading of the premiums. That's why you're seeing some of that. Fire department, not a surprise to see red lines once again in equipment purchases as well as in rental agreements. So we do both of those things right at the front end of the year. And so those seem to be on track to where they should be.
Firehouse run.
Yep.
Says you budgeted 6,000, it's 8,000 in the first quarter. Is that, you got 3 more quarters you gotta pay that?
No, it's all front loaded right at the beginning. So it's the full cost at the beginning of the year.
Right, very good.
So economic development contracts, these are contracts with other entities or that we work through. So we have the contract with the Business Improvement District for $108,000. This is above the Business Improvement District's assessment revenues, the city contracts with them. And then the Finger Lakes Innovation Kitchen and the Finger Lakes Welcome Center, these are 2 pieces that we are unbudgeted because they are revenue and they become cost neutral. So we pay those expenses, but then we receive revenue to take that back off. It's just here so that way you know that it's here. So Finger Lakes Welcome Center, we work with the state for cleaning services and all of that. They pay us that $15,000. The other piece in this actually is the farmers market. One of the reasons the farmers market is at the lakefront is because New York State provides us funding for that to be at the lakefront.
And the kitchen and everything, that's a wash?
Yes, that's why it's unbudgeted here.
Okay.
Quality of life. So we've done some reorganization within the city where we do not have an economic development office. We now have moved that into really working with the assistant city manager and having some staff there. We've blended recreation and economic development in some ways, but our budgeting structure does not represent that yet. So what we've discussed and looked at many, many names is you will see quality of life as designation for all of those departments or divisions that report directly to the assistant city manager. So this is the economic development realm, all very much in green at this point. However, you will see farmers market, things like that happen mid-year, not at the beginning of the year. Quality of life recreation, so this would be similar to our general recreation. There is some materials and supplies that have been purchased. Recreation operates in 2 different areas, so you have summer season and winter season. When we get to the rink in a couple slides, that actually operates on a different calendar year than our budget, and you'll be able to pick that up very quickly when you see where their spending is at. So recreation summer programming, not a surprise, barely touched in the first quarter. General maintenance would be preparing for that, bringing turf in, things like that, starts to have some expenses there. And then when we get to the skating complex, this is where more has come out. So the skating complex has a $207,000 budget. This is focused on the winter season, and they run from April to April. And so this is the end of last skating season's budget, and then they'll start up this year. With that, one of the things that I'll also point out is you'll see yellow in concessions and supplies. We have seen an increase in use of concessions. One of the main drivers being we now accept credit cards as the recreation complex, and I'm looking at a hockey mom right now, and I know she loves that. But that does mean we also have higher expenses because we're buying more concessions to then sell the concessions, which becomes cost neutral, if not providing some revenue.
Do you show the revenue for that at all?
So all revenue goes into the general fund. Departments do not get department-specific revenue.
Right, but I mean, do you have a place on paper where it shows like?
Yep,
you're
all in the
spending-
revenues. Yep.
Well, and I know it goes all in there, but do you break it out and say, so you know if you're making money there or if you're losing money?
Yes. Yep. Yep.
Okay. Can we
Did
get
your
that
s-
at some point?
Did your skating rink costs include the percentage of the salary of the of the director?
So the skating rink costs, the salary there is only the complex staff that does the maintenance. So we have one recreation maintenance staff, and that's in the skating complex budget. I know what you're asking for. That's a different budgeting. This is just
I
how
realize that, but you're looking at, you're presenting that as the cost of running the skating rink when
Right.
your recreation director works virtually full-time through the skating season running that.
Well, we don't have a recreation director.
I realize that now, but you have.
Yep, we've done away with that position. So that all goes into what I would love to see in the future is the merging of all of these into the quality to life division so you can see all of those costs together. Because I will say that the community vitality coordinator who's overseeing planning and economic development as well as recreation is partially there, but it's not a full-time operational director at the rec complex. And to your question, Councilor Kame, yes, we can pull that out so you can see some of those revenues and what they look like. That does go into the budget every year, and you see line by line where the revenues are projected.
Okay, thank you.
Department of Public Works and Quality of Life, code enforcement is another area that we've shifted in. One thing to note here, computer costs. One of the things that will soon be changing is we have implemented some new software. We're starting with permitting. So there'll be an easier way for people to get permitting online, payment online, things like that. And we'll be moving forward with a more advanced database for everything from complaints to permits, where people can actually see in more real time what is happening in code enforcement. DPW, Buildings and Grounds, which also falls under the...
Sorry, I have a question about the previous one.
Sure.
Mileage vehicle costs?
Yep.
Is that mostly vehicle costs or is that mostly mileage? I can imagine vehicle costs happen at the front of the year, but people drive forever.
So this department does not have vehicles.
Oh.
They only have mileage reimbursement.
Okay.
Yep.
And I imagine that that's not travel isn't like front loaded. Travel happens throughout the year.
No, travel happens throughout the year, but it may be front loaded from last year. So if someone did not turn in, am I correct in this? So what we will do is make an adjustment to that.
Okay.
If someone has not provided their reimbursements until after the year has
It goes
closed,
into this quarter's report.
Yep.
That makes sense. But
Yep.
that would also mean that there's nothing left?
it means that there will be a budget adjustment
Yeah,
coming.
okay. Thank you.
And I think actually you raise a very good point, is within these lines, so you see office supplies, everything but salary, social security, and employee health insurance is the departmental budget, which means they can shift between lines.
Mhm,
So if I see mileage and vehicle costs here, we may see conference expenses go down a bit because we're going to have to shift from there.
Yep.
But they work within their budget. So for code enforcement, they have a $428,000 budget minus their salary, they can't touch that, employee health insurance or social security. DPW Buildings and Grounds, which also falls into that quality of life area, you'll see a slight overtime pay increase. So DPW, when we have a storm, it doesn't matter if you're buildings and grounds, highway, water, sewer, wastewater treatment plant, water treatment plant, they are called to help with those situations. And you will see members of each of those teams in a plow truck, at the side of the road, doing what they need to do. That also means that sometimes our overtime goes across the board because they all come in. State retirement, again, this is not front-loaded, so you'll see that we have spent nothing because we have not gotten that bill yet. And police and fire retirement system is separate from the state retirement system. There are two different systems. We have to pay both. And again, we have not gotten that bill yet, so no spending there. And then health and retiree insurance, again, this is done on a less than quarterly basis. There are lump sums that we there. This is a regular payment. We believe that we'll be on track with the health insurance. Debt service is at 85.3% remaining. Our installment purchase principal and interest are fully paid in quarter one. Those are scheduled very large lump sum payments. Our serial bonds are largely paid later in the year, and then our ban or bond anticipation note debts, which the mayor talked about, are typically paid in the third quarter. Those bond anticipation notes turn into bonds in the future. They don't necessarily turn into bonds until after the work has started, so they could take 3 to 5 years to even mature from ban to bond. Overall, this is just so you can see it all in one place. The scorecard, sorry Mayor, it is red on there. But you can see where we're trending there. And then I'm gonna go to water fund briefly. This one's a little quicker. Water maintenance, we've had some water main breaks. No surprise at that overtime pay. I will note that through the Geneva Grit Award, Grit and Great Award, we had multiple members of the water maintenance team, and I had a staff say, why didn't anyone just nominate that whole team? Because they really have been working very hard for all of us. I think that's a great nomination, and there are other awards out there that we should probably be submitting many of our staff's names to. With those water breaks comes things like main valves, hydrants, repairs, replacements. Our new meters are on track. We front-loaded the funding for those meters, so we purchased them early in bulk. So that's why you see that percentage, and then we'll deploy them throughout the year. And then health insurance, I discussed that earlier, where it's lumped in a little differently. Water fund debt service, again, very simple, similar to what you saw on the other side, how we pay serial bond payments, follow a schedule. Ban debt typically is settled in quarter 3. Sewer fund, again, 76.3% budget remaining there. Doing well in most areas. That employee health insurance will get settled later on. And then the wastewater treatment plant, New York State fees come due right at the beginning of the year. Training is something we also front load, that their conferences and other things are more in that first quarter. And then debt service follows the same thing as the others. Oh. Just some notes and some highlights. And one note and highlight I think is important too. Tonight on your data sheet, I did share where our fund balance is at. Our fund balance is at just over $4.6 million. 10 years ago, our fund balance was almost $2 million less than that. So we've done a lot of work to get those fund balances to a healthy place, should there arise a time to use that funding because of something in need. So some of these things that we highlight here, green items, the pilot at 47.6 is on pace. We did receive cannabis tax funding, our money, that we did not budget because we did not know when we would receive that. The county partners and others have been really working with the state to try to figure out how we were going to get this. We did receive that first dig. It's a new source of funding. It is recurring, but it may not be recurring at the same rate. It's just like sales tax. It depends on how much people are buying of cannabis from our store. So we just have to be cautious with budgeting that.
Do we get that revenue quarterly, or is this like a lump sum that's like back revenue from the previous year? When
Eventually, we will get it in a cyclical way.
Okay.
Right now, because it's a new funding stream, and I think it's 3 state departments oversee this new funding stream, reconciliation between all of those departments and the county to us is a little clunky. So I'm not sure how quickly we will get that.
Okay.
Other things here, sales and use tax, it's down in this because we hadn't received that payment. We have now received that payment, so it looks better. Interest and earnings, 26.6% collected. We're on pace with where we thought we would be with interest and earnings, so as long as the markets hold where they're at, I think we're in great shape. AIM state aid, we don't receive it this early. We never do. You'll notice they say state aid fees we pay in the first quarter. We do not get our funds in the first quarter. Just some things to just make sure we continue to call out. Highway, snow removal near depletion. We had those storms at the beginning of the year, so we need to be prepared for that. Our audit fees are over budget. That's not a recurring cost, but they were significantly over what they were. and we may need to do a budget adjustment there. Real property tax, we are near full collection, which is really a lot, especially with our residents. That makes it really nice. And then we've received some unbudgeted revenues. We don't budget super high amounts for forfeitures or insurance recoveries. I will say our staff, and you're gonna hear from one right now, in a little bit, spend a lot of time getting those insurance recoveries when things happen within the city. They spend a lot of time talking to insurance to recover the damages that happen on city property. And then again, water and sewer revenue timing, we mentioned that at the beginning, and retirement and band debt, again, comes in later in quarters. So, our revenue has been collected. We're moving at a pretty positive rate. We went through kind of what to monitor, and I think one of the pieces that we just have to remember is timing with the first quarter report. Not to get too overly excited about it, but to be optimistically cautious as we move forward, because we are performing better than we had anticipated. And that's all I have on this one.
Councilor Lavin.
Your Honor, I just, in going at the last IDA meeting, I mentioned before that I suddenly learned that we were going to pay for the destruction of a building that we don't own down at the IDA. I'm often told with the IDA that, well, they own the building, so it's not our thing. But here we're I think it's between $300,000 and $500,000. I don't ever remember discussing that as a council, that we would take on that burden for the IDA, nor a vote on that decision. Though I did ask the council, the manager, and was told it was in the last year's budget. But I wonder if you could just fill us in on how that decision, that seems to me a policy decision that was made, but I'm not sure anybody on this council was aware that we decided to do that for the IDA.
So it is within our lease agreement with the IDA that all spaces that we utilize, we are responsible as a city for repair and management of that. That building is our storage facility. It has our tires, our records. I think those are predominantly what's in there. That facility has been deteriorating for many years. There is no entrance to that facility at this time. And last year it was brought forward to council that it was going to be placarded and not be able to move forward. As part of the budget process, we did allocate up to $300,000 to assist the IDA with demolition of that, because it had been placarded and needed that demolition. It has not happened at this point. There is an RFP out to find out how much that is, but that is within your budget. There would need to be a final decision. I think it would be appropriate to have a final decision from council on how much, but it is our responsibility to demo that.
But my understanding, I took a tour of that building a while ago when I was getting familiar with the place, that we didn't pay we never paid any rent on it. There was no lease specifically for that building, which was not really attached to the GEDC, and that we are, that we made that maybe a fair and ethical decision to help them with that. But I don't know that this council realized that we were spending on something we did not have to spend on, and depending on the lease, that it's sort of indicative to me of the way the IDA and the city, one pint you're the city manager, sometimes you're the head of the IDA, the executive director of the IDA, and rents for what that we pay at the DPW there, and who sets those and how they're approved. It seems more like quiet handshakes between people, not this council understanding. I mean, when I look at the $1 million they need on a roof, $500,000 at least that they need for the asbestos removal of a building that we didn't even pay to use, and it's owned by them, that I think if we took cellophane out, wrapped the entire damn building down there, and walked away from it, we'd have a quarter of the money you need to close the budget gap for next year. But we're not looking at that stuff. We're sort of muddling through and making vague judgments. I don't know that. I'd like to see that I don't know if we've ever seen a lease agreement. I know you sent the one out
We can resend it.
recently, but we've never had that kind of engagement where we're looking at what are we committing to down there, and this ongoing relationship for a building that the building that you're talking about is not part of it's not the GEDC per se. It's where the cops kept a lot of their records. And we're asking the GEDC to, the IDA, to improve the building, and that brought in the inspectors. We were expecting them to fix the building on some ways. They were doing electrician work. I'm just saying, I think we need to really take a look at that whole thing before we just keep throwing money at it.
Absolutely.
Through the back door in this case, because I don't, maybe another council member will remind me that during our budget session, we had a discussion of taking on this massive expense for the IDA.
Yeah, so I can share those documents again, and we can share where it was presented. But I think, you can look at when the RFP comes in, it makes sense to have that discussion. You can look at the lease agreements where it says that if we're occupying the space, we're responsible for the management, and determine if you want to have future conversations with the IDA on it. I think at the end of the day, the other piece that we have to remember is the IDA is a standalone body, but there are a lot of tie-ins to how that operates. So I think that it's worth a further review. I know the ad hoc committee is doing that.
Not at all arm's length, that relationship, but.
Okay.
If I
So
could add-
more to come on that.
Yeah.
Just one other thing, in addition to the maintenance, it's that insurance piece as well. So our liability as a city is a concern when it comes to that building.
Liability for what? You don't own the
insure-
building.
We insure that building.
Yeah, we do.
It's the City of Geneva's Industrial Development Agency, which means
See, and that's where it's just another example of where the cross purposes, financial decisions, and clarity to this council as to what they're agreeing to needs work. But
Okay.
I'm done, Your Honor.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other questions on the Q1 budget report? Okay. Let's move on. Thank you for the patience for the supervisors update, of which we have two esteemed supervisors here this evening, Supervisors Kennedy and Dickinson. So welcome.
Great. Thank you, Mayor, members of council, and city manager and clerk. I would like to reintroduce Supervisor Esther Dickinson, who is here tonight, and she will be given the quarterly report next time. So I'm following up on, or if she wants to join up here, she's more than welcome to. My first, so once again, not making any assumptions, since this is my first appearance here this year. Jim Kennedy and I live in Ward 2 and represent at the county level wards 1 and 2. My last report was 6 months ago to this council, and it was not this council. And things look very different. Good, different. Recognition also, again, to Supervisors Regan and Dickinson, who will also be doing this work, and it is great working with both of them, I must say. We have, so far this year, had a meeting with us 3 city supervisors, as well as the mayor and city manager, county administration, the chair of the board, Bill Wellman, of the Board of Supervisors, and also with our economic development person. We have 3 more meetings scheduled for this year, or that they will be scheduled, and I just want to reiterate how positive that has been, and also will build on what I sense is a lot of the momentum here, and certainly at the county. So some things that are old, some things that are new, and some things from 2025 that this is my first chance to share with you. The county events I send through Nicole, the clerk, each month that they come out. I see some nods. You're getting those. Great. My role this year on the board, committee-wise, is Health and Human Services, Government Operations, and I am also appointed to the board of the Ontario Partnership. There are no town or city Geneva supervisors on public works. at the county level, so I am attending that as my time permits. I think I've only missed one meeting so far this year, just to be apprised of what's going on in Public Works. Like council, the Ontario County Board of Supervisors has also had a turnover, about 48%. So we, like you, are adjusting to the transition, and we are now meeting this year every 4 weeks, which is the same with the committees. It used to be every 3 weeks. So the board meets every 4 weeks, the committees meet the week before, but also every 4 weeks. Last time I was here, I think we talked a lot about utility costs. You know, I know that situation has not gone away, and it appears to be getting worse and even more complicated with the continued talk about data centers being introduced, especially in the rural areas. I think there's quite a discussion going on in Genesee County regarding that. Ontario County Humane Services, Humane Society data that I wanted to share with you, also from 2025. 297 pets were cared for. 242 of those were dogs, 53 were cats, I have to say this, and 2 were geckos. Of that amount, 64 of the dogs that went through intake made up the largest percentage, the largest number, I should say, of intakes across the county. The next number, so that's 64 for the city of Geneva for dogs, and 40 was for the next highest municipality. And there were 144 dog and cat adoptions in 2025. That is a 25% increase over 2024, which is good news. There were 149 after-hours calls in 2025, and I think we were the second highest on those calls. And those calls can range, there's a wide range of what those calls are about, but they're all after hours regarding pets. In February, we voted to support the county providing, as needed, if needed, $300,000 to support the Greenway project. Some of us, myself, actually spoke to the 2025 County Parks Master Plan, which through a public survey conducted by the consultant who did the Parks Master Plan, reflected the importance that constituents contacted through the survey felt about the importance of trails to our county parks. So I'm glad that that vote went the way that it did. In February, our new director of the Youth Bureau, Patricia Bertino, came out and met with city management, and I was unable to make that due to a flat tire on County Road 4. And there were at least 2 feet of snow on the ground that day. In March, Mayor mentioned NICOM, the valuable resource that is. I attended the State Association Legislative Conference in Albany. One of the sessions that I attended was on, quote, From Crisis to Care. This was about a Buffalo-based initiative funded through a foundation that's also based in Western New York, analyzing calls to police around mental health issues, calls to 911, and tracking how those calls are coded and how they're followed up on. I shared the information I had certainly with the sheriff, but also with Chief Eveland as a result of attending that conference, along with our mental health director. No specific follow-up expected, but just information sharing. Department of Social Services, the office here on South Seneca has made an administrative decision to bring the 2 staff members who are on the workforce development staff there back into the main office in Hopewell. That's 1 counselor and 1 full-time support staff. We were told this again in March, and the reasons for that are safety and security and limited space. For those individuals who are affected by this, the Department of Social Services, the Commissioner has said that two things. One is that those affected residents of this part of the county who receive those services here on Seneca Street will receive bus passes and to attend the services in Hopewell related to job search. And also the job search activities will be scheduled so to accommodate those social service clients affected by this move who have children and related school bus responsibilities. So those will be held later in the day so that those clients, those residents can receive those services in Hopewell. So transportation and also a changed schedule. As you know there, and as I've spoken about last year, we are faced with federal cuts, both in the SNAP program and also in Medicaid. There are in the county 5,300 recipients of SNAP, approximately 340 cases, which are also individuals, are set to lose their SNAP benefits as of June 1. Department of Social Services Commissioner has indicated that they are in the process of reaching out to the affected clients now who have not participated and informing them about the situation and letting them know that there is still, if they're eligible, time to comply. But if they have not been using those benefits, they will be dropped. In addition to those affected by the eligibility changes. In Medicaid, we have 4,798 individuals who are receiving Medicaid services. These do not include those individuals who are in long-term care facilities. Typically, at least 1/3 of the Medicaid budget is for those residing in nursing homes. The work requirements that will affect both SNAP and Medicaid recipients, individuals receiving those services, are currently in effect. That started on March 1, and we'll see the first impacts of the SNAP recipient changes in the month of June. I also want to recognize the counselors who were at the YMCA on last Saturday, in fact, as well as those of you who showed up previously to the other council meeting at the Y. It was very informative on a number of levels. So thank you to Councilors Gomo and Lavin, and I say this also as a constituent. It was very informative. And as indicated, Ms. Estrada and Ms. Diaz, their presence there provided so much food for thought that even continued at my dinner table that night. And I was cooking, so it was not about the food. So very compelling, and thank you for that. And I think all of us are going to be following up accordingly. Some of you know that pertaining to the discussion about the South Main Street traffic issue, I did follow up with the Traffic Safety Board and shared with them the concerns raised about South Main Street, recognizing that a lot of the trash truck traffic, cannot say that too fast, will be reduced by 2028 as a result of the Ontario County landfill closing. Cannot account for trucks going in the other direction. Again, as you know, I don't need to tell you, these are state roads that we're talking about, be it 14 and or 5 and 20. But I felt that it was important to mention that and make sure that that got mentioned on the Traffic Safety Board. I want to also recognize the city manager for her updates that we're receiving about the big bucket items that are coming our way. That's really appreciated. Okay, now to the smaller but just as important things that are of interest to our constituents. Backyard composters are still available, but not after midnight tonight. So if you send an email to recycle@OntarioCountyNewYork.gov, you can get on the list to purchase one of those. After midnight, you're out of luck. Electronic waste recycling is in April, is in the town of Bristol at their highway department. We just had one at the landfill in April. So that takes place May 16th, 585-393-3090 to get on that registration list. Also, confidential paper shredding is taking place, I believe, in Victor. That's quote unquote sold out, but a reminder that we have bins here at City Hall for that very purpose. Finally, also in terms of the mayor's comments about Nursing Week, this is also Mental Health Month, and I want to recognize that, and also the people who are working in those fields, all of whom, like so many of your departments, are faced with workforce shortages, especially after in the wake of the pandemic. On behalf of our Director of Public Health, tick season is here, so tuck in your pants and check yourself after you come out of the woods. Thank you. Anyway, great. Come on up, Esther.
Sorry, on this list of smaller things, the 4-H Camp Bristol Hills, which Cornell Cooperative Extension runs, is still open for scholarships. All the literature says that it's through March 1st, but if you have constituents looking for things for their kids to do this summer, Camp Bristol Hills is open, scholarships are still open, and they're going to run a bus from Geneva for the first week of camp, and that's the first time they've tried to do this, and I think it would be wonderful if we had a nice showing of our wonderful children in our community to go to Bristol Hills. So if anybody has questions about that, they can contact Cornell Cooperative Extension. I'm happy to also connect them with people because the literature is confusing on the scholarships at this point. Yeah.
Questions for us while we'll go through?
No, but I will say this. I appreciate the conversations we've had and the patience as we look to align with the city priorities, with the priorities of the county, and how we better communicate and advocate. I think that's very important, and the input from all the counselors on that as we go forward, I think, is equally important. So I look forward to those continued interactions, especially as it relates to our strategic plan and our needs. So thank you. Thank you both. Councilor Kane.
Thank you again for your reports. As a representative of the 6th Ward, where all our industrial property is, I would imagine that the county has some kind of industrial development agency that actually works on industrial development. And I'd love to drive in the country, and I see a lot going on in the west part of the county. Could you talk to somebody and try to get some of it to come this way, please? Thank you.
Well, I'm not prepared to talk about all the projects, but they have been here and have been involved here in Geneva. I'm wondering, based on this question from Councilor, if it might not be time for our planning and economic development representatives to revisit and do another presentation this year
Right.
for council.
Because we would love economic development, we would love industrial development, but we do not want their garbage.
Councilor Petropoulos.
Yes, I'm Jim Petropoulos, Counselor for Ward 5. We're a team. I reflect or echo everything Counselor Kame said. By the way, thank you guys. We do need to powwow at some point. I know I dropped my card off. But yeah, I'd like to see more direct interaction between council and the county supervisors, particularly the 3 that represent Geneva. And yeah, I know I've been there. So it can be like all of them against 3 of us, you know. But yeah, we could use industrial development here in Geneva too.
So all councilors, what I would invite you to is the ad hoc committee on downtown and economic development. The County Economic Development Agency is being invited to present, and that will be an ample opportunity to ask those questions, and they will demonstrate their efforts as well, especially as it relates to the city IDA. But certainly I think you'll see there are opportunities for conversations.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Okay.
And I will make a note also to make sure that we share with you the economic development report for 2025.
Terrific.
Jim, do you have any information on how the supply of money for after school and daycare, the county does a lot of that. Is that under strain now as well?
It has been for really since last August at the State Association of Counties that I've attended, Councilor Lavin, this has been a major concern, and many counties are reporting a loss of a lot of money. I've not heard that yet at the Health and Human Services Committee, but I know it's a statewide concern. This and we're all waiting for the state budget, and so we'll see what's in there, but it has been a concern. Specific question on that?
No, it's another example of the county is a little lesser known form of government. We get much more attention compared to our budget than you do. But your ability to help on the key front for a city like Geneva that has a poverty level like it and speaks to the working people who are struggling here, it's another thing where the county's decision to go over its required support for that part of the thing is where I think your help as the three people representing us, it really is important that we keep that up, even if the state cuts back. But
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. And thank you
Thank
for
you
these
all.
specific asks.
Can you repeat the E-Waste? I thought I wrote down the number, I didn't get the date.
I'm sorry.
The E-Waste event in Bristol, just need that info again.
Oh, okay. That is May 16.
And the number?
Town of Bristol Highway Department, 585-393-3090.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. We're going to go a little bit of order here. In terms of the presentations, there are actually only three we're going to hear. Town and Country Shared Services we're not going to hear. But Chris, I know you've been sitting there patiently. So why don't you step up if you're okay, and you can go first. And I'm asking each presentation, please hold yourselves to 5 to 10 minutes in the interest of time.
I can certainly do that.
Thank you.
While he's doing that, my motorcycle broke down in the fireman's parade. He stopped, picked me up, threw me on the back of his bike. And the two of us were together in the parade. Imagine that.
Yes, I did. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council, for a few minutes of your time to give you information about the Red Knights Motorcycle Club. Like I said, you've probably seen us in the parade a few times. We are a international firefighters motorcycle organization. Local chapter started here in Geneva at the Geneva Fire Department. It's expanded since then. We're in our 20th year of existence now in the Finger Lakes area. This is our second time that we're hosting an event, which is a regional event up here in the Northeast. We'll call it the Yankee Rally. There are several in the United States, Canada, and Europe and Australia is where most of our chapters are in. This is the second time we're hosting. This time we're hosting here in the city of Geneva. We are basically taking over the 41 Lakefront. We do have some extra rooms at the Hampton Inn as well. We're expecting anywhere from 300 to 350 participants. This will include folks from all over the eastern seaboard, from Georgia all the way up through Maine. We have a few out of Canada as well that are coming down to enjoy the festivities as well. It was well attended the last time when we were in Waterloo 3 years ago. We had over 400. So when we decided to do this again and wanted to have it here in Geneva on the lakeshore, everybody was a resounding yes when we asked the contingencies thereof. We have a packed agenda for that weekend, starting on June 3rd, going all the way through the end on Sunday morning, June 7th. We have a couple of rides planned, so there will be groups of motorcycles going in and out of the city. There'll be plenty of other small groups going in and out as well. A couple of instances in the city, especially on Friday night, which I invited the mayor and the council as well to come in and join us for just an evening with food trucks and music and camaraderie there. That way we don't have everybody out on the road at that particular point in time. I do want to make mention that we will have our Region 1 Director, Ken May, who lives in New Jersey. We will also have the International President and Vice President of the organization in attendance. So we'd like to have you all come out and say hi, shake hands, and see where everybody's coming from for that particular weekend. A couple of highlights that we want to make mention. Once again, we obviously some increased motorcycle traffic, so we want to make the city and towns that are all around well aware of that and be a little extra careful on that particular weekend. We have made arrangements, hopefully if it stays dry, to ride the Watkinson International Track. We are one of the very few that are being allowed to do this on motorcycles. So that's a kind of a plus for more. That kind of drew a few more people to register and be with us that particular weekend. And then Saturday is a day trip down to Corning. City of Corning is allowing us a few spots down there, go to the Museum of Glass, things like that. And then finally finish up here in the city on Saturday night with some camaraderie and events there as well. So, like I said, I've extended an invitation to the mayor and to members of the council to come over and see us, find a little bit more about what our organization is about, and meet a few people and have some time with us over there on Friday night if you're all possible. So we appreciate it.
Appreciate it, Chris. It's been passed on to all of council. I'm sure some of us will be there for sure.
Yep, I've received a couple of responses already, so I appreciate that.
And thank you for bringing it to the city of Geneva. We appreciate it.
Yep. And one quick mention, I always keep forgetting to mention, this ultimately becomes a charity event. This is not money that we take in and we do anything with ourselves. All of the proceeds to this event go to the Finger Lakes Regional Burn Association, which is an organization that assists burn-injured kids and adults. Especially, we put a focus on their Camp Courage, which is a summer camp for burn-injured kids that we go down and see them in August. So
it's a great cause.
It's good to say thank you. My dad was one,
He
20 years
was,
ago,
he
and all them
was.
guys, and
Yep.
you guys do some great work for those kids. And when you bring the bikes down, the smiles that come on their faces.
Oh,
boy,
it's very humbling, but
priceless.
very enjoyable. It really is. So thank you for your time. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you, Chris. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next Lakefront updates.
Yes, Director Venuti should be right in.
Oh.
He's going to be the one presenting on this. Thought he was over there. Thanks, Taylor.
Oh, there he comes.
There he is.
How many minutes?
5 to 10.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and members of council, for allowing me to hopefully provide a brief, high-level overview of recent events and storm damage impact to our beautiful Lakefront Park. City manager has graciously approved this little presentation I have, a little photo slideshow for you as we go through. No particular timing, but if you're not aware, the north end of Seneca Lake has experienced increasing shoreline damage associated with the intensified storm events, sustained high lake levels, wave action erosion, and extreme flooding conditions. These impacts have accelerated deterioration of the existing shoreline protection systems, compromised public waterfront infrastructure, and increased vulnerability of our pedestrian access areas, park amenities, and adjacent public assets. Frequency and severity of these storms underscore the need for a coordinated, forward-thinking approach to improve immediate shoreline repairs, stabilization, and long-term resiliency. Before we switch slides, the events of March 31st and April 1st, where we experienced 3 inches of rain, was on top of greater than 60 inches of snowfall for the season. Regionally, it's been the wettest March recorded in 90 years. I just saw a statement today that we have received 16 inches of rain so far 2026, which puts us in the top 5 wettest March-April combinations in more than 100 years. Today we received 1.25 inches for those who haven't measured at home. The lake level, okay, the lake level normal pool is 445 to 446 feet, and that is an elevation calculated above sea level datum, okay? The lake is 2 feet more or 2 foot higher than normal. A rainfall such as we experienced today will impact the lake level, 1.25 inch rain, about 4 inches of elevation within 24 hours. All the runoff, 475 square miles, okay, of all the entire lake, Cuba Lake included, will hit our lake sometime tomorrow, which will put us at a flood stage. We're currently at 447.9. Well, currently, that was at 6 p.m. when I was ready to come up. So 448 is flood level. We, staff and I, and the assistant city manager, working with consulting firm, our teams collectively to protect visitors, clean, remove debris, and determine some corrective actions. I hope to have cost estimates in the coming weeks, but keep in mind, we can't see some of the damages because of how high the lake level is. We can't safely, get to it and identify. So, 3 areas, we're trying to compartmentalize the entire lakefront. I've broken it out in these 3 spots. The hotel pedestrian area, area 1, visitor center boat launch area number 2, and then our stacked stone seawall, let's say, which goes from our park all the way to the state park entrance. So you can turn, please. The hotel pedestrian area experienced several areas of degradation, scour, and erosion, threat to shoreline stability, loss of plantings, undermining portions of the sidewalks, loss of support structures near the shade structure features. The visitor boat launch area, 2 components there. The concrete step feature, which people are familiar with, taking photos, has failed. We've lost some shoreline protection, significant revetment loss, again, plantings, geotextile fabrics, and possible damages to the jetty and viewing decks. The boat launch area itself has displaced large stone fill to the jetty. The launch dock and deck system, the steel sheeting, retaining wall has been compromised. Damage to the decking systems. There's a baffle pipe which goes through the jetty to allow the waves action. That's completely filled with sediment. We were not able to dredge the boat launch this spring. And then finally, the stacked stone seawall section, in my opinion, complete state of disrepair. No significant maintenance work has been done since 1950s. Footings and wall sections are completely washed away. Storm pipe outlets are exposed and broken, and the shoreline failure is imminent to encroach on the sidewalks. So what's our course of actions? Again, working with the team here, we want to develop a clear understanding of the existing conditions, come up with some primary vulnerabilities, and practical shoreline protection strategies. We present this to you all tonight because it's going to cost something, okay? These photographs were taken last week. A south wind event between now and whenever, it could completely change this for the worse. So we're going to look at doing some things to return it back to pre-disaster conditions, I would say, but also look at some probable improvement recommendations, such as some steel sheeting or heavier stone fill, some hybrid type revetments with some living shoreline or natural planting suggestions that are out there today. We'll prepare some cost estimates for that and present it. We'll work with the team to talk to DEC and the Army Corps of Engineers. DEC is the Department of Environmental Conservation. They have a joint permitting process that we must follow to do any work in the lake, regardless if it's a disaster or not. We still want to encourage residents and visitors to use our park, be outdoors, We have a great event this weekend. Please come on down, support the Middle Finger 5K, but safety needs to be prioritized. I've already recommended keeping the boat launch closed and will do so again tonight. We will fence off additional areas where needed. We've got some sinkholes that are going to develop. As the wave action gets past the seawall, it just undermines. So the sinkholes develop because everything's getting pulled out to the lake. We're monitoring this, and we may need to close off additional paths or concrete sidewalks, but we do have the parallel path along the trail to remind everyone about. They can still enjoy the Lakefront Park. Any questions?
I'll start, Director Joe. Just first of all, thank you to you and your team for all the work that you've been doing. I mean, this goes back to the floods and dealing with them, and now this, in particular, devastation. And I think that's not too strong of a word, but the devastation that we're experiencing along the lakefront, just within the city property, and it extends down through the state park and beyond for certain, and all around this lake and the others, given the amount of rainfall. I think as I'm hearing this and understanding this, and certainly been kept apprised of it, and my appreciation to the city manager and staff in doing so, this is not going to be a small cost. This is going to be significant. My encouragement in preparing this is I'm sure you're probably already thinking, but to vocalize it, to think of this in terms of stages, in terms of safety first, access second, so that we can then stabilize and move forward. As much as I like to say to improve, I think that's going to be much harder to do. And then secondly, with regard to that, with whatever help and aid we're getting from the state, the county, or any other source of revenue, do you have any insights on that you can share, or is it City of Geneva, you're on your own?
It's quite easy to project zero. Today, the Seneca Lake Pure Waters Association, which is a great group of folks who monitor and support the entire lake, just sent an email to us where they have confirmed that state representatives will listen to us. So communities along the lake, and we'll post it. I'll put it into Amy's Friday meeting notes. We're encouraged to document the damages and get it submitted so that the state, possibly Homeland Security, possibly FEMA could look at it. Going through a FEMA process already, the minimum level of action required for a disaster is currently $40 million. I don't think we have that much damage here, but I'd be comfortable at throwing you a number of probably 3 to 4 as we stand here tonight, without it getting any worse. So, point taken. We'll work on the safety part first and figure out what we can do next.
And one other place that we'll talk a little bit about in the next presentation is some grant funding. With wrapping up some of our current lakefront work from DRI, those sources of funding become available again. So there may be some grants that we could do, but grants are not definite and they are not quick. And some of these things need to be remedied before our grant could come through.
I mean, it seems to me we're looking at some potentially long-term issues in terms of accessing the lakefront and maintaining the lakefront while this is resolved monetarily, but also physically.
Absolutely, and we'll definitely look at all grant opportunities. One of the consulting firms that I'm speaking with has presented like 2 or 3 options we can look at. But there's an application process, and there's a review process, and then this is a study, and then, it continues on. Immediate terms are life and safety and protecting the walkers, runners, bikers, kids down there.
Councilor Kane.
Just thinking outside the box, reaching. That used to be 5 and 20. Does the state still control that? And I mean, like,
No.
No.
There's documentation. I've searched the city clerk's records prior, the last couple years ago, and I think in 1951 or 1952, it stopped being the state's property to maintain it's a city property.
Oh, okay, because I know it was military and the state had it there, so if they moved it, I didn't know if they kept, like the easement there in case they needed it. But, all right, thank you.
Counselor Gummo?
Is it just this section of the lake that's impacted, or is it all around the north end? I'm wondering specifically what
I
is-
believe it's the entire north
Yeah,
end. I've
yeah.
I've driven into the park. I haven't spoke with John,
Yeah,
the
this
state
is-
representative, just yet. Or
This is where I'm heading.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the next county over probably has the same problem.
across
State-
both
State
sides of
Park
the
has the
lake.
same
I
problem.
toured the Willard
Yeah.
site last week, and that's completely a mess over there too.
Are you able to coordinate with the state in the next county on what their plans are for their
Just
sections?
came out that the state coordination was available to us this afternoon. I just
Okay,
got the
nice.
email late today, so we will definitely take advantage of it.
Thank you.
Metropolis?
Yes, first of all, thank you and your crew for the hard work you've been doing. I took the liberty of going down there and having a look myself. I guess the first thing I want to ask is, yeah, we know it's going to cost. What's the timetable looking like, and is waiting for, funding Godot, so to speak, is that going to further compromise the lake the longer we have to wait to
Well,
do anything, or how's that going to work?
Yeah, those are great questions, Counselor. The lake level has sustained this height for more than a month. We've had just a few south wind events that have created more damage. I don't know how long it will take to do anything. We're monitoring it daily to determine what areas that I would recommend closing off. It's our asset. It's a tourist destination. It's where people come to exercise and enjoy and be outdoors. It's a balance between closing it off and scaring people, but I also, we have to be real and understand that if the sidewalk caves in, we have a huge liability on our hands there. So I don't have a time frame. It's every day. It's keeping me up at night, believe me.
Lower the lake level, drink more water.
Counselor Grimaldi?
Yes, buy more city water, please.
Yes, use the water out of the lake. Joe, is this something some of your guys can do? Can you do this work?
So we have, Counselor, we have done quite a bit of the cleanup efforts. We've been there 3 times already to clean up debris and keep things where people can pass by safely. We've worked with the state, DOT. The part that the state does have jurisdiction over is the Marsh Creek culverts.
Yeah.
So they were here Monday. I've met with them several times. They came Monday with a crew to kind of secure some of the really bad areas. So we will do what we can. Obviously, we're seeking quotes. We just got some quotes today for some temporary fencing. But like I mentioned, it's a tough line to barricade off a beautiful place,
Yeah.
but safety has to take precedence.
Can your guys bring stone in that to help secure the edge?
We can pour stone in, but being that there's nothing to support it,
That's what you
it
gotta,
gets
you really
washed
gotta
away.
redo the whole thing.
Correct.
But have you heard anything about the outlet? I know I was in a meeting earlier this morning, and they were saying that there had been a fire at the sluices.
At the Cuca outlet?
No.
You're referring to or Waterloo?
Well, that's how I got involved, because they were complaining about the Cuca outlet. This is the one in Waterloo, that they had a fire and they're only using one outlet.
Well, we receive continuous updates from the hydroelectric facility that's there.
Yeah, and that's what it is.
And from the national level, they send us a document almost weekly.
Yeah.
And there has been a reported equipment failure, but it's been in the works for months now.
Well, I was wondering if you had heard anything, because that seems to be a problem.
I can't speak to the levels of Van Cleef Lake, and their rules and regulations
Well,
are
I
very
just wondered
strict,
if you had heard if they were gonna do any of those repairs to let the water out. I know we were taking pretty big hits down in
Right.
Milo today over the outlet down there out of Cuca Lake.
Just
But
sheer size. Our lake is so big and the
It-
canal is
there's
so small.
tons of water. There's tons of water everywhere. And, but I know the dam that holds the water up in Cuca with the K, we're within a foot of the top of the dam. So they're not gonna send any help there, but this is where we thought that they could do some help if they would be able to open up those sluices to get some of the water out of this lake. So, but we're not gonna hear anything down there. You're gonna hear it up here first, because you have, we only have a little bit of Seneca Lake.
I'm worried about from Snell Road to Preemption.
I know, just, we're just
Snell Road to
but
Preemption
you know what,
Road.
when Ben was asking the damage is all the way down.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
like, it's the whole
You
entire
know,
lake.
I'm in Milo. Milo is bad. Starkey is bad. You know, and that's the end of Yates County. And I'm sure down by Watkins, I would not want to be trying to maintain their break wall down there on their harbor.
So, yeah, hopefully, regionally, I spoke with Supervisor Kennedy before the meeting. If all the communities reach out to this county effort to coordinate cost estimations, maybe we will hit the mark and get a disaster declaration, but it's not something we can, just wait for, I guess.
Part of our
Well, I
problem is
think-
going to be is that the waterfront is Seneca County.
It's
Yeah.
possible if by next council meeting, perhaps we put together a resolution and we direct it towards each of the
legislature.
county legislators and the state representatives with regard to this to help with that coordination.
Yeah, it would be nice if we could get all the towns along the lake.
Let's put that on
to
the
put
list.
it, put it all, if everybody put it out, it's gonna get a bigger
Yep.
response than just one town.
Agreed.
On behalf of the people from west of the Mississippi, they'll take the water if we can get it there.
If
for
only we
them.
could ship it. All right.
Thank you.
Joe, thank you. Thanks for your patience. All right. A grants update, Assistant City Manager Youngs.
All right, so I will try to be quick as well. I'll keep this fairly high level. As you all received the handout, it was in the agenda packet. So I won't walk through all of the pieces, but just some highlights. Since the start of the year, we've secured about $4.35 million in grants, which is, it's great. It's more than we've secured in full years in recent years where we've been keeping track of this. That spans infrastructure work, planning, housing, economic development, and public safety work. And importantly, those aren't one-off wins. Those are tied to projects that we now have to deliver on. At a high level, we are already leveraging grants anywhere that we can that aligns with council priorities. We're being intentional about where we apply, but we are actively pursuing opportunities across all departments. What I want to make sure is clear, though, is that this is not just funding coming in the door. Each one of these applications take time to develop, coordination across departments, building scopes, budgets, match identification, and as Joe was just mentioning, in many cases, the engineering and planning work must already be complete. And then once we are awarded, that's when the real work starts on procurement, contract management, compliance, reporting, reimbursement requests, etc. Many of these grants run for multiple years, so they stay active well beyond the year of the award. We also have several applications that you'll see in the handout that are currently under review that are more opportunities for funding to come in with this year, such as TAP, open space, and others. And we're preparing for additional opportunities such as the CFA or the consolidated funding application through the state. So this number is not static. That 4.35 million we expect to continue to grow over the course of the year. And at the same time, we're already managing a pretty significant active portfolio that I've tried to highlight, some of those projects. We have projects that are underway from 2025, 2024, and in some cases going back much further, such as 2016, 2017. So there is a constant level of compliance, reporting, and coordination happening behind the scenes across multiple departments, not just one team. The marina project that was brought up earlier, or the Long Pier Stabilization Project, is a great example. You're seeing movement now with contractor selection and next steps, but that is a result of years of grant work. There's coordination with state partners, and getting to a place where we can actually implement is finally here. So going forward, we'll continue to pursue funding aggressively where it makes sense, but we're also being mindful of that capacity, making sure that what we take on, we can actually deliver successfully. So overall, I think this reflects a really strong level of external investment coming into the city and the level of effort that it takes from staff to make that happen and see it through to the end deserves a million thanks. So thank you to all the staff who make all of this happen, and I think this is a super positive update for council.
Thank you. I appreciate you, Taylor, and the team for all the work that goes into this, and also the untold number of citizens in Geneva who contribute and volunteer their time, energy, and effort to this. And if it weren't for these people, supporting the staff, we certainly wouldn't be seeing these numbers. So
100%.
my heartfelt thanks to you and to all of those in our community who do that. And hopefully we can have a chance at some point to recognize them. Any other comments or questions? Okay. Thank you. All right. Next is the intermunicipal agreement with the town of Fayette for sanitary sewer service.
I can start it off, Mayor, and feel free to chime in. So the town of Fayette has approached us quite some time ago about the desire to join our sewer system, and as part of this, you'll see that the resolution allows them to participate in that. But because we are going through the current rate and fee study, it does not have any of that. The reason for this request at this time is they are continuing to compile their funding stack to make this happen. So they have to actually put in all of their own piping and all of that. And so they need to know that this support is there. I think one other caveat to this is Fayette crosses across that county, and so they'll be going to two systems, and they have been referred to us by our monitoring agencies and certificate agencies saying that they must go here with their systems, which are also mandated because they're trying to move septic systems off our lakes for a variety of reasons. So they are reaching out to us to work with us. They have been very kind partners wanting to think about the region because for them, we're really the city where their tourists and residents come to after being through Fayette and visiting with them. So more to be done on this. This resolution just allows us to enter this intermunicipal agreement and negotiate the contract terms as part of the rate study, as well as part of all of the different types of systems we want to make sure we have in place to protect our wastewater treatment plant.
I would just comment in strong support of this in a bit because we have to. I jokingly will say this, they're told they have to do it, we have to do it, and this is a part of, you think about the regionalization we're starting to make reference to. Yes, we're going to keep going through the water and rate study, and we'll come to terms with that at some point, but this at least allows them to be in the process to get the monies they need to pay for this. So I would just simply strongly encourage support. There's no real data or details beyond that. It's just an important step. So unless any other comments, questions?
I'm confused as to what are we agreeing?
Sorry. So for us to discuss, we need a motion first. Motion to accept. Councilor Gummo, second by Councilor Lavin. Discussion.
It seems like we're going back deeper into they don't know what they're anything about what we're going to charge them.
No.
And we don't know anything about what we're committing to without prices.
Correct.
It's an odd thing, and there's an implication that these agencies licensing and ominous but ill-defined legal words have the authority to tell us to do something. And I think both in our dealings with the town to come up, with Waterloo that we're already in bed with, and this one, I think at some point we have to say, what are we doing here? We're committing to them, letting them go out and make expenses, and that seems to me that takes away our ability later to say, here's your price, and they just say, no, it's too much. We're negotiating into a position of weakness here, and the implication, unstated, is that we have to do this.
Yeah,
Those plants belong to us. We may have to tell the state we're not going to add to our capacity to take care of your problem in Seneca County unless you're taking care of our problem in this stuff. And I don't hear, no offense, but I hear no legal obligation on our part to do this, and I can't imagine they would agree to just take whatever price we give them.
I'd say a couple of things with regard to this. In terms of placing this here, it's to assist the town of Fayette with their grant and capital stack process so they can in fact pay. They have and are aware of the rates, generically speaking, that we have charged. We know that we're going to revisit all that. I don't think they're anticipating a doubling, tripling, quadrupling of anything. And I don't want to speak for them, but that's not the impression I get. The oddness of government here, and I will state this personally, is that the state and the municipalities are attempting to do things to work from a regional standpoint. There are a few things coming before the other, but I think as far as I can tell, insofar as I can tell, our commitment and our position as a regional provider is there. Whether we like it or not, we're doing it. And this will simply add another customer to us, and we will negotiate, of course, in good faith with them in terms of a rate that would be applied. But I don't think any of us here would suggest we're going to go either try to overcharge by massive amounts or undercharge, and I don't feel as this will put us in any handcuffs in terms of what it is we can negotiate when the time comes. At least that's my view, and in having a meeting with their town supervisor.
It's just odd way to do business, and I think we've been the regional provider, and it's eaten our lunch, in my opinion, in significant ways. I think we should at least give them our best estimate right now, which is somewhere in the vicinity of twice what we've been charging in the town of Geneva. And
well, I think we've given them some indicators about what we've charged.
Yeah, but we've charged that's like we've undercharged, we've supported our administrative work on this, and I mean it's sort of like the GEDC. We can use this asset to build this strength of our community, or we can just say, well, it's nice of them to send us a new customer who's going to eat our lunch again, because this consultant is not making the decision for us. These are political decisions as well as.
Sure.
And
We'll
I wonder why can't they just enter into the negotiations with us, because somebody else has given them a deadline. They want to get going.
It'll come eventually. It's just they need this to get their money. Otherwise they can't, and it's even worse for them. And it'll be harder for us. This is a little bit of inter-municipality support.
Harder for us because we've already agreed to add $17 million to our debt on behalf of with no guarantee that we're going to get it back. And this is how we've gotten into these financial decisions over time, is to expedient. I'd pull the, I won't vote for this, and I'd table it till the way of doing business makes sense, and they get. I hate to see Mark Venuti and the town of Geneva or the people suddenly be handed a bill that's twice as high as they ever thought, and I think that's very possible in this situation, and with a reasonable assessment of what we're doing in our regional role here. And I please don't imply that they have the right to tell us to do this if we haven't done the legal work to say, well, then there should be a 2-minute discussion. But we're implying it in the way we're presenting this, and I don't think that's true right now.
Councilor Petropoulos?
Yes, I took the liberty of reading through the document. The first thing I read is no financial impact. I don't think we're there yet. Right now, I think basically it has little clauses that says we can pull the plug if they get out of line, or we can tell them that no, they can't. So I don't see us giving away our, wastewater capacity. And again, I think it'll be fair once we get done with the study. We can then go in, and at that point, that's when the negotiations begin, as far as I can ascertain. I could be wrong, but I'm in support of it, if only because if we don't support it, everything's going to just get bogged down, and we'll have to revisit it, in the future, where we really maybe aren't in a better position to do that.
Do we have we spent $420,000 on our law work here. Do we have a legal position on what our right is in this position?
Yeah, so that's not what you're paying me, but
It's
far less than.
I like you. I wasn't beating up on you. I was beating up.
Yeah. So I think so you're right. You're not legally obligated to enter into this agreement, but I think the mayor's assessment and description is accurate in that this is basically the town signaling that this new district that they're forming is going to be or wants to be a customer of the city's. And in order to get state approval for that new district, they need to prove to the state that here's where your wastewater and stuff like that are being how that's being serviced, and that will be through the city. So that's all that this agreement is doing, is indicating that we will be that provider and we will be entering into terms down the road, if and whenever that happens, and there will be a whole separate discussion about what those terms will be. That's not really what this document is intended to. This document is not intended to set the table for everything. It's just to tell the town and tell the state, yes, we will be the service provider for these services for this district.
If they agree to our price.
Well, it's sort of saying we will discuss that later, but that we're not talking. That's not the purpose of this agreement, is to talk about the price.
Well, I'd like them to say it. We don't own those plants, so we just operate them on behalf of the state.
Chris, it's number 551, it's the rates charged to the town for the treatment conveyed from shall be as set forth in any applicable extension agreements between the parties. Even though we haven't agreed to any rates, we are agreeing to, they are agreeing to, that they will comply with the rates that are set forth.
Right. My overall point is to clarify our ownership, our role.
Okay.
We have other customers who I think would owe us hundreds of thousands if we had done this right. That's my opinion. And we're not changing, we need to change the atmosphere in which our role is clear, and we don't get screwed again.
Okay.
Okay. Any other, Councilor Kane?
Councilor Levin, I agree with you on that part, but I read it, and what this says is we're just gonna, if they wanna build the pipes, we're gonna allow them to hook up where we say that they could hook up, and that we'll take it at a charge that we'll agree with them later on. This is just saying that they're gonna have a place to dump the pipes.
Yeah, I think you're giving away some of your control of saying yes or no by agreeing early, without price, that you're gonna do it. And I'm really thinking more of the town than I am.
There's gonna be a
the
shut-off
but-
valve there, so if they don't like the price, we just shut the valve off.
We'll call it the Lavin shut-off. I'm kidding. That's a joke.
I know, I'm kidding.
I'm kidding.
You know I love
Councilor
you.
Lavin. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Would the clerk call the roll?
Counselor Brennan?
Aye.
Counselor Kane?
Aye.
Counselor Petropoulos?
Aye.
Counselor Gilat?
Aye.
Counselor Lavin?
No.
Counselor Gameau?
Aye.
Counselor Grimaldi?
Aye.
Mayor Cicery?
Aye.
Motion carried.
I'm comfortable back on my seven.
The last, or next item is board and commission appointments. I believe we have
There are none.
none.
Just my one, right?
You gotta bring up the IDA
Yeah, one.
person.
No, there's none that made
There
it
were
to
none
the
given
agenda.
to us.
Yeah, there's none on the agenda.
Do you want to introduce the
Yeah.
IDA appointment?
Yes,
I guess is a question. We talked about this last time and tabled it.
yes.
Mhm.
I'll bring it back.
David, just on point of order for this, if it's a tabled resolution, it comes back to this meeting, correct?
A resolution is a vote.
Yes.
Okay.
So tabled last meeting, up this meeting is the IDA appointment from the discussion from the last. So Counselor Gelati?
So I can go ahead and make the motion and we're good, right? I mean, no discussion.
So
I'll
why don't we at
second.
least first introduce the person and the name and give a little bit of background to it,
Oh.
just to remind ourselves.
Well, I think I'll start with this. I was at the IDA meeting the other night and had a conversation with some of the board members there. And there are two people down in their board, and they're very high on this person that they wanted us to approve. Megan, I'm gonna butcher her last name, probably Hooper, 452 Washington Street. They're very high on her. They thought she interviewed very well. So I'd like to make a motion to get her approved.
So motion by Counselor Gelati, second by Counselor Gummo. Discussion. I think what's important here in the table, and recognized it, that we actually had an additional conversation with the IDA. It did shed good additional light on the urgency for this appointment. It doesn't mean that the IDA doesn't change at some point in time in the future. Nothing's guaranteed, but this allows them with a board for which they've adequately interviewed a person. I think they said they had 3 people interview this person as a part of the recommendation to City Council. And I think at least to allow for a functioning board, one that's been interviewed and vetted, that it's appropriate. Other questions or comments?
Mayor, do these positions have a term, or are they on a term?
Yeah,
Yes, Taylor?
Yes, it's a 7-year term.
Okay, is she starting a brand new 7-year term?
Yes.
Okay, so she's not filling in for somebody that was on before?
I don't believe so,
No.
Okay, so this is a brand-new term, okay.
Okay. Will the clerk call the roll?
Counselor Brennan?
Aye.
Counselor Kame?
Nay.
Counselor Petropoulos?
Hey.
Counselor Gilat?
Aye.
Counselor Lavin?
Aye.
Counselor Gamo?
Aye.
Counselor Grimaldi?
Aye.
Mayor Cicery?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay, the next item, and we can group these, the consideration of the meeting minutes from March 28th, April 1st, April 21st, April 23rd. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Counselor Petropoulos, seconded by Counselor Gummo. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? So carried. We have a motion to adjourn.
I so moved.
Carried by Counselor Gummo, seconded by Counselor Kame. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. I vote aye. Thank you.
Next time you bring coffee, bring two.